So we did the land acknowledgement statement, the roll call, the adoption of the agenda, uh, and you guys missed that. I'm not sure you heard everything either. Sam had a motion uh, to amend the agenda with the announcement of candidates to the long range.
We just lost you, Keith.
You got to talk straight into the mic.
Oh my gosh, this close. All right, I'm not
It
sure.
froze.
All right, so we had the adoption of the agenda. We had the agenda amended to add the Long Range Planning Committee, the announcement of 4 members for the Long Range Planning Committee. And that was the only amended we have. And then Stu, we already passed this, so I'm not exactly sure technically how we do this. Stu, did you have any amendments you wanted to do?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add a 9C to continuing business, and that's the discussion on golf.
I would second Stu's amendment to add 9C for discussion of golf.
9C. So that'd just be continuing a business for discussion of golf. Okay, anybody, all in favor of adding, we already voted for Sam's amendment. We need now to vote for the discussion of golf added for 9C for continuing business. Can I get a second for that amendment or motion, excuse me?
Sorry, I'm just wondering, are we prepared for that discussion? Since this meeting, we already had the agenda prepared. Joanne, are you prepared for the?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's just, I think, a touch on it. I don't think it's anything.
Move,
Can you go ahead?
move to add the discussion of golf 9C to the agenda.
Can we get a second?
Second,
Who is that? Timey.
Timey.
Okay, all in favor or all in favor?
Me, Timey.
No.
I just don't know. I was trying to find out if she was ready to do that.
So we're all good. It's unanimous. Okay, that's unanimous. All right, that is passed. That's unanimous. We already did item number 2, which was a consent agenda for the January 11, 2024 meeting minutes, item 2A. That was motion by Linda, seconded by Sonia. That was unanimous. On to item number 3. We'll redo this one again, was announcement. Does anybody have any announcements?
Yes.
Yes, we have Joanne.
Maintenance is holding an event on Saturday, this Saturday, the 27th, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the Gate 5 overflow parking lot. We're inviting. Spencer, you just took me out of the webinar. We're inviting residents to bring chippable material. With the last storm, we had lots of branches come down. And if you bring that chippable material to the Gate 5 overflow parking lot on Saturday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., we will chip it for you and you'll get it out of your yards. Maintenance is continuing to work throughout the association to remove the limbs, tree limbs, and other debris along the roadsides and out of the ditches. But we've had so many trees come down everywhere that it's going to take us a while to clean up. So if residents can bring the material on their own properties down to the overflow parking on Saturday, that'll be a big help. The more that we can chip and get out of the ditches.
A quick question, Joanne. Are there any limitations on the size or anything?
Quick question, Joanne. Are there any limitations on the size?
Yeah, don't bring tree trunks. Our chipper goes up to 8 inches.
Linda, as soon as you came in, it went crazy.
Mute your audio, please, Linda.
Off. When she got turned off, things got crazy.
All right, having some strange issues tonight. All right, any other announcements tonight? So that was a very important one. So a lot of branches out there. So take advice, use that service we're offering. Okay, item number 4 is property owner comments. Do we have any property owners like to make comments tonight? Okay, hearing none. We're going to move on to item number 5 is candidate interviews. And
Gentlemen's ending by Zoom.
oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Correct? Yeah. Yeah. Is Martin online? Is he online? Has anybody seen Martin?
I don't even know what's being said. What did you say?
Oh, can you see Martin Cooper online?
He won't be until we bring him over.
Oh, is he a participant?
Keith,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Rob.
I'm not sure of the situation about being not there, but Martin had sent me an email a couple days ago indicating that he thought he would be in the valley this evening.
Might be downstairs is what he's saying. Oh, are you Martin? I'm Martin.
Thank you. Thank you. Robbie is here.
Great.
You'll have to talk right on to the microphone.
Hey, good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Evening.
So we're giving basically 3 minutes. You know the whole story. 3 minutes for your personal introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're
Sure.
interested, and so forth.
I'm Martin Cooper, and I have a condo in the clubhouse cluster at Gate 2.
Real quick, I'm going to tell you, you got to speak close to the mic. It's
Okay.
very hard to hear. Yeah.
Like around here? Is
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a condo in the clubhouse cluster near Gate 2. My partner and I moved to Sudden Valley about a little over a year ago, and we love it here. Not working now, but I'm very active in the Red Cross as a disaster action team supervisor in Whatcom and I have not run for office before. I'm not really a political person, never served on an HOA. And it's not even especially likely that if I'm selected for this position that I would run for re-election in November. My purpose in volunteering for this board vacancy today is to serve the community on a temporary basis to fill an emergent need. There's obviously some wonderful assets here in Sudden Valley that make this place a great place to live. And my purpose in volunteering for a board position is to help preserve and protect the assets that we have, such as we have here a professional staff that makes our life safe, comfortable, which deserves to be treated with fairness and respect. There's a natural environment, the lakes, the forests, the trails, the wildlife, which makes Sudden Valley special. There's the golf course, the marina, the gym, the restaurant, and the rest of the built environment, which provide needed revenue and make this place a fun place to live. So if I'm selected to join the board temporarily, my purpose is to use my best judgment in order to advocate for the interests of all the residents, the staff, the guests who live and work and visit this wonderful place.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Does any of the directors have any questions they would ask, like Sonia?
I'll start, and I'd like to encourage everyone to ask each of the candidates the same questions so that you can kind of judge them in a fair way.
I'm a little hard of hearing and I'm
So I was just asking the other board directors that maybe to encourage them to ask all of the candidates the same questions so that we can kind of judge everybody on a fair playing field. So I wrote my question down so I could ask all of you the same. So at the last AGM, 2 advisory votes were placed on the ballots. On both votes, over 80% of the voters stated they did not want to see a special assessment used to fund a new pavilion or the replacement of the marina wet slip docks. As a matter of fact, 20% voted to not replace the marina wet slip docks at the end of their useful life. If you are appointed to the board, do you intend to adhere to the members' guidance and follow a funding plan that ensures no special assessment will be required or triggered to fund the marina wet slip replacement?
No, I was afraid that you were going to ask me about specific issues that are controversial here. And I know there's been a lot of controversy around the board, in the board over the past couple of years. My position is that I've only been in Sudden Valley for a little over a year. I'm not deeply familiar with all the toing and froing of issues that, that have caused controversy. And unless and until I'm on the board and in a position to study and learn what the issues are, how they're affected by the rules and regs, the bylaws and the laws of Washington State, I'm not prepared to address how I would vote on any specific issue confronting the board. Once I'm on the board, I'm going to study and learn and talk to people, and then I'll have an opinion.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
One is
Does anybody else have any additional questions they'd like to ask Martin?
Yeah, for those attending, for those directors who are on Zoom, just put your questions in the chat or raise your hand to ask verbally, please. Rob, Stu now.
Okay. We'll let
Rob.
Hello, Martin. Thank you for coming tonight. I have a question. Often in teams, when people are working in teams, there can be conflict. And could you tell us about a time where either professionally or in maybe other groups that you volunteered in, where there was some conflict, and how did you deal with it? How did you try to resolve it?
Well, I spent 30 years in government. We had conflicts over all sorts of issues and policies. My position has always been to listen carefully, think hard, and try to work cooperatively and productively with my colleagues, which is what I would do with these colleagues if I were accepted as a member of this board.
any Stu, you had a question?
Yeah, Martin, thanks for putting your name in the hat to be on the board of directors. My question is, it's kind of a generic one, and I know you haven't been in the Valley long, but traditionally, voter turnout in the Valley, since I've been here, and my understanding is it's been going on for quite a while, but voter turnout is very poor. How would you propose increasing voter turnout so we get a better representation of the entire community and voting when we're voting on matters that are really important to the community, which most matters are?
Well, the issue of voter turnout may be an issue of communication. It may be that, the residents of Sudden Valley are, busy people for the most part. They may not be paying as much attention to issues of elections and referendum. I suppose there are a variety of ways of reaching people now on social media, and if I'm in the communications committee, I suppose that I would try to use every form of communication available, including the newspaper, the View, Facebook, the website, to get the word out that people who live here and who care about this place need to come out and vote and express their opinion.
Thank you.
I would just like to thank you for continuing to soldier on while you're getting all this feedback while you're talking. So I'm not sure if that's picking up. For anybody reviewing this, but thank you for that.
All right. Any other additional questions from anyone? All right. Hearing none, we appreciate your time tonight. And then I guess you can go back. Is he able to stay up here then? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You're able to stay up here if you'd like, or
May I sit here and listen?
you certainly can. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the opportunity to interview.
Thank you. Sonia, are you texting Michael to let him know? Send up the next one. It'll be Ray to be in next.
Keith, I can text him. I'll do that.
Okay, either way, I think Sonia's already on it.
Get some time on that. And no one else was gonna.
Good evening. Yeah, up to the podium, please.
The podium, wow.
Thank you very much for your time coming tonight. So the drill is you get 3 minutes to basically introduce yourself and kind of explain why you're coming, why you would like to join the board here in Sudden Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you got to like eat the microphone so they can hear you.
Well, good evening. My name is Ray. I've been living in Sudden Valley for 5 years now. I live here with my wife, Ann. And just thinking about it, this next Valentine's Day, we'll be together 43 years. So,
Congratulations.
yeah, it's long term. She wanted Valentine's Day, so I wouldn't forget the anniversary, It was on Saturday, way back when. And along with that, I have 3 children, adult children. I have 2 son and a daughter that live in Everson. And then I have a daughter that married an Italian gentleman, and she lives in Italy with her husband. So my wife and I are empty nesters, and we love living in Sudden Valley. Absolutely a blast for us. All the woods around, and I think my wife goes around Lake Louise, rain or shine. I mean, she loves it. So fun stuff. I wish I was able to know about Sudden Valley and I would have raised my kids here. That's how much I really love it. And this opportunity came up to maybe help Sudden Valley be a better place. Hey, I'm all for that. This is hopefully my wife and I's last stop. So we're planning to be here. Let's make it the best we can. It's really, cool that this type of HOA has assets, and some of these assets are possibly, make revenue. Not every HOA has revenue. You have some revenue from some of these assets, golf course and the club and marine side. And I believe that, part of the board of directors is to make these assets as equipped as possible to possibly, get as much revenue as possible to put the money into shared other properties that everybody shares, the parks and all that stuff, and then keep the dues down. So I would think that that's a big part of what you're doing. And I would be excited about doing that kind of stuff. And if I had the opportunity to work with your group, I would be the guy that understand Robert's rules pretty good. I've been on several boards, several committees over the years. And that Robert's rules, I would be the guy that's trying to get my ideas on the agenda so we at least could talk about them. And some of those ideas could be some improvements to some of these assets. They could be maybe ways to communicate better with the community. I'm speaking as the community because I've been here 5 years, so I kind of know what kind of happens around here. I believe there's been some good improvements recently. I do like the paper. It says what projects are getting worked on and how much money. I think that's really awesome. So thank you, whoever put that together. Another asset that I could bring, I'm a boater. I work out in the gym. I golf a little bit. I'm on the trails. I get around. I see some people. I hear some things, and there's room for better communication with the community. But I think probably one of the biggest things that I want to put on the board's shoulders, from my view, is that we need to keep the children, the kids that are growing up here, we need to keep them happy and having a good childhood in Sudden Valley. And this will keep Sudden Valley going, because if we treat these kids good and they have a good time, they do their water activities, they learn how to golf, they do the Easter stuff. And there could be many more things that could happen here. It's got swimming. It's a great place. But when they graduate from high school and they say bye-bye, and they go off to college or their job or whatever, and they get educated, we want them to come back. And when they come back and they want to buy houses or they inherit a house, we want them to raise their families here. Then I think the board has done their job. You're keeping Sudden Valley going, and the community becomes a really strong community when you get second generation and third generation. And I would love to help this group make sure those kids are happy. I'm all about kids. Like I said, I would love to raise my kids here. So I do serve on the Friends of the Library. It's for the kids. And the kids all kinds of opportunity, not just reading books, but all kinds of activities, music, bongo drums, all kinds of cool stuff. I love it. And I think there's more opportunities that Sudden Valley could sponsor for the kids. And I think it would really improve all communications if even a portion of the board directors were at some activities and made themselves present. That just brings it all together. So that would be.
So we now have 4 minutes left for the board to ask questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Shoot.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sonia, since you're
Okay.
prepared.
All right. All right. Well, first of all, again, yeah, thank you for being here and applying. So at the last AGM, 2 advisory votes were placed on the ballots. On both votes, over 80% stated they did not want to see a special assessment used to fund a new pavilion or the replacement of the marina wet slip docks. As a matter of fact, 20% voted to not replace the marina wet slip docks at the end of their useful life. If you are appointed to the board, do you intend to adhere to the members' guidance and follow a funding plan that ensures no special assessment will be required or triggered to fund the marina wet slip dock replacement?
You had 20% that didn't want to replace it. You had 80% that wanted to.
80% did not, they didn't have a problem. A total of 80% just wanted no special assessment to fund any repairs on there.
Mhm.
So there was about 16% of the people that said they would be willing to fund with a special assessment. So that was it. The rest of them either did not want the docks replaced, or they wanted whatever repairs were happening. They wanted a funding plan that did not trigger a special assessment. So I'm asking, will you support the membership? The guidance of the membership on those advisory votes was to not trigger a special assessment, to ensure that the funding is properly planned so that it doesn't trigger a special assessment.
That's a good one, for sure. I think we have to, I think it would probably need to be represented for another vote again, because that didn't really come out too well. And the boats, you're gonna need some docks down there eventually. This is for the 5-year down the road.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd hold for a year and roll it out another year, roll it out as another proposal a year from now. I don't think that's out of line.
Can I just clarify, so what I'm asking, so it would be a vote if it was a special assessment, the membership would have to agree to that, so it would go. But a funding plan is put forward by the board through our budgeting and planning process.
Yep.
And right now, what the budget currently does is that we recommended last year that the marina fees were raised $1,200 annually, so an additional $100 per month on the 88 wet slip owners, to help offset the $1.5 million to replace the docks. So it would really only fund a portion of that, like in the 5
helped.
years. Right. It just
Yeah.
helps.
I
But
think I voted for that.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of answers my question then.
Yeah.
You voted to increase it and put it
Increase-
towards capital.
I figure the boater guys should probably pay for the docks. I'm a boater guy. It's the right thing to do.
All right. Well, that's
Okay, we have one more question.
thank you.
from
I'm
Stu.
done. Sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. Stu, go ahead.
Stu, do you hear us?
Stu, you have your hand up?
You're muted, Stu.
Yeah, the technology guy, you should know how to use the technology, right? So my question is kind of along those lines. Sonia is a little bit more organized than I am and articulate, but really, traditionally in Sudden Valley, since I've been here and my understanding beforehand, there's actually very poor voter turnout for just about anything, general elections, special assessments, you name it. The turnout's really poor. So if you were on the board, what would you propose to increase voter turnout so we have a better representation of the entire community in the voting?
Well, I've been on several boards over the past, and I understand what you're saying. I believe that we probably need to do more activities and more communications with the board. And so people can meet and greet more. There's definitely a divide. There needs to be a really good standard communication that's coming from the directors. And several different gates and several different ages. It's a mixed bag. But hey, Monday Night Football or a Super Bowl day or, picnics in the summer, just to try to bring the community together. I think it goes a long way. I've been on a lot of church boards, and the church boards, hey, the church is 1,000 people, and you see those members every week. So it's different. We don't see everybody every week. We don't see anybody hardly at all. And so there needs to be some more community stuff going on that's open that people can share. Because this is a great community and it needs to work. And you're working and putting your time in to make it a better place. But nobody really knows how hard you're working.
Right.
That would be my idea.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And then
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay up here or you go back down, whatever you want to do.
Oh, my buddy.
Go home and eat dinner, whatever's
you.
good. All right. You're going to text, Michael?
Oh, my God. I should not have
I
it.
should say that beforehand, right? And then he knows, I'm sure, Colleen.
It's my fault. I should have we should have a clock and I can warn him ahead of time. Just, I should,
Go down there.
I need a signal ahead of time. Yeah, to like count down of when to.
I could have just like gave 5 prepared questions.
Hey, Colleen, there's a 10-minute limit on this. You get 3 minutes for your intro and then the board will ask you questions. Okay, I'd like to remind you to be virtually on top of the microphone, or you won't be heard.
Or literally on top of the microphone.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, forgive me a second. We've been waiting.
Yep, you're wasting time.
I'll start again.
There's no redos. Of course, we're just kidding.
Okay. So I think I'm under 3 on this one. So my name is Colleen Mitchell. And I am a 4-year Sudden Valley resident. My husband, 3 children, and 2 dogs moved here in 2020. By way of introducing myself and the skills and qualities I might bring to this position, I thought I would make a connection between my professional experience and serving Sudden Valley on the board of directors. I've been a nationally board certified and licensed acupuncturist for the good part of 19 years. Spent over a decade in collaborative and integrative group practice as part of a widely varied integrative team of physicians and other healthcare providers. I work to provide a holistic and individualized care plan. Each care plan involves problem solving, strategizing, and constant reevaluation in order to address the many facets of the patient's health issue. Patients benefited from the many minds working together to collaborate in their care. Similarly, I would bring that sense of collaboration, problem solving, and strategizing to the role of director. As in any team, I understand it's crucial to bring a sense of respect and diplomacy and to be most productive for the people we serve. Just as healthcare providers strive to help patients reach balance, so do board directors, be it the budget, maintenance, the staffing. The main charge of this HOA to keep Sudden Valley balanced and functional. It takes many minds, many skills, and lots of collaborative efforts. A single board director is but one person amongst a vast number of others, all working together to help keep the SVCA well balanced and fully functional. I see this as the role of a director in this HOA as one part of a huge collaboration to not only bring a fiscal balance to all functions, but also to allow Sudden Valley to thrive, to be its best within the context of its structure and function. The single most important skill of any good healthcare provider is the ability to listen, to really hear the patient, just as communication and listening, really hearing the needs of the community. And the SVCA as a whole. The pulse of the community is its membership. And if we truly listen and have our hands on that pulse, we collaboratively elevate SVCA to thrive. I see myself as bringing forth great skills in communication, collaboration, and problem solving in the role of director. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, any
Oh, we'll go ahead and start with Sonia.
Okay, so at the last AGM, 2 advisory votes were placed on the ballots. On both votes, over 80% stated they did not want to see a special assessment used to fund a new pavilion or the replacement of the marina wet slip docks. As a matter of fact, 20% voted to not replace the marina wet slip docks at the end of the useful life. If you are appointed to the board, do you intend to adhere to the members' guidance and follow a funding plan that ensures no special assessment will be required or triggered to fund a marina wet slip dock replacement?
I think I'd go back to that idea of like really listening to the community. And if that is what the vote said, and that's what the membership spoke to, I feel that would be my duty to really hear that as a board member and to abide by what was voted on by the membership.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. Stu?
Why don't you let Rob go first this time because he did missed his turn last time.
Thanks, Stu. So Colleen, thank you for coming tonight. My question is it's in conflict resolution. And oftentimes when working in teams, such as the board, there could be conflict. And could you tell us about a time where you experienced some conflict working either professionally or maybe in some other volunteer organization where there was conflict, and how were you able to try to resolve it?
All right. Well, I won't get into the having 3 children part of conflict resolution, but in my professional life, I don't know if anyone's worked in healthcare, but there are lots of big personalities and lots of differing opinions, just as anything else. And everyone has to come to that place where, and I don't know if I can give you a specific example because it's, I think when you're making a care plan or you're working with other providers, it's just kind of like an everyday task. Like, I don't agree with what's happening, or like, I don't view it that way. You know, what are we looking at here? What are the tangible, quantifiable facts? But I would say, like, in general, respectfully working with one another is crucial. And I I think that how we communicate, the manner we communicate, and how we respect everyone's views is by far the most important part of any conflict resolution. And I think actually prevents the conflict where we can have a differing opinion or agree to disagree or state our case without creating that conflict. And I think this is an important thing and thank you for asking, because in my short time living here of 4 years, I've seen a lot as a resident, a lot of conflict. And I think it just prevents everyone from being their best and serving the community. So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask one if we got the time, Keith.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Colleen, thanks as well for coming in tonight, putting your hat in your name in the hat there. So you mentioned pulse of the community, which is a very important concept. I agree with you. But here in Sun Valley, since I've been here, the voter turnout has been extremely low. So what would you recommend doing to actually get a good voter turnout and see what the pulse of the community really is?
I want to say the hub of all of this is communication. I talk to a lot of people. I ask a lot of questions. I want to know how, especially because I'm somewhat new here, but I think people disengage because of the drama and conflict that's either perceived or actual. And as I talk, I don't do that. I just throw my ballot away, or, I don't even get involved in that anymore because XYZ happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So I think that it's, the charge of the current board and staff and Sudden Valley Communication as a whole to engage more with the community so that they feel like this is different. This isn't the same old. This isn't the drama that I've perceived, actual or imagined. But people disengage by and large, and I I can speak to many conversations. I don't want to deal with that. But if it's not dramatic, if everyone's working together, if it's a cohesive board and staff, and there's not all this drama happening, people are going to be more likely to engage.
Yep. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's it, time-wise.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from anyone? Oh, let's see. No. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Did
Thank you,
text,
Colleen.
Michael?
I did.
Oh, good. You're up.
I was like, look, I'm on it this time.
Lori. Village. Is Lori on? And then. Not connecting, maybe. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Good evening.
Hi, could you please,
Yeah.
Mr. Asai, and as a warning, you almost literally have to touch the microphone in order to register.
In order to be heard.
Oh, that's great.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Great.
we have 10 minutes set aside for you, sir, and the first 3 minutes is a personal introduction. So let me know when you're ready and I'll start the clock.
I'm ready.
Oh.
All right. So my name's Rick Asai. I'd like to touch on just 4 things in my brief 3 minutes. How I got here in Sudden Valley, a couple extra things on my background that I didn't include on my application, some goals and concerns about Sudden Valley. So we got here, our son's been working up here in Bellingham for about 8 years. That summer of 22, he purchased a home up on Harbor View Drive. We got to know more about Sudden Valley, really got excited about it, and ended up buying a home last May down in Longshore Lane, Gate 1. So we just love the area here. I mean, we're really enjoying everything about it. I mean, we're hikers, we're outdoor people. We've been kayaking and swimming in the lake, enjoying the food and beverage scene in Bellingham. So really like it. Really want to see it continue to be the precious gem that it is. In addition to some of the things that I listed on my application, I have had some formal training in parliamentary procedure prior to serving as a Speaker of the House and then President of the Oregon Dental Association. So I've served on probably 6 or 8 state and national boards, in addition to probably a couple dozen local boards. I'm a retired dentist from Oregon, and so I've got time and energy and I think a lot of skills that I could contribute if need be. My goals really, you know, when I've had a chance, I really appreciate the transparency, being able to look at past agendas, videos, meetings, and I think that's a really positive thing. You know, you start looking at spending $1 million on roads every year, $1 million plus in salaries, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. And so one of my goals would be, you know, really get the biggest bang for our buck for our dues, monthly dues payment, and yet maintain everything that we have here. So 2 of my concerns really are about climate change, and it's specifically trying to maintain our natural environment and trying to help keep a curb on invasive species like the English ivy and the water lilies that are inundating Lake Louise. So I think it's really probably better for you to be asking me questions than me trying to tell you what I think you want to hear. But so I'll leave it at that.
I think we also would like you on the ACC as well. All right, we'll go on to questions. We'll start with Sonia.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Sure.
At the last AGM, 2 advisory votes were placed on the ballots. On both votes, over 80% stated they did not want to see a special assessment used to fund a new pavilion or the replacement of the marina wet slip docks. As a matter of fact, 20% voted to not replace the marina wet slip docks at the end of their useful life. If you are appointed to the board, do you intend to adhere to the members' guidance and follow a funding plan that ensures no special assessment will be required or triggered to fund the marina wet slip dock replacement?
Yeah, I think the board has a lot of authority, but we have to listen to our members, and I would, support both of those decisions of the membership. No reason in my mind not to. I think what's interesting is in looking at and being able to review recent agendas. I went back about a year and a half, and some of the YouTube videos of the meetings, that the marina has a very limited way to develop additional funds beyond the slips. And so it is an attractive part of Sudden Valley to be able to have access to boats in the lake in that way. But I think we may have to look at some other creative ways of generating some funds to support the marina and maintain it with all the floats that are breaking down and stuff like that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Stu?
Muting this time. Eric, thanks for putting your name in the hat there to be on the board. Appreciate it. My question is really just kind of a general one. And you being familiar with boards, maybe this is kind of common along boards, but here in Sudden Valley, since I've lived here, the voter turnout has been very poor on just about everything that has come up for vote. So as being a former board member on other boards, what would you propose to increase membership participation in voting on things that are important, which is pretty much everything?
Yes. Getting member participation or owner participation in an organization, whether it's a community association such as this or a membership organization, is becoming a growing challenge. All right. We continue to see drop off in levels of activity on almost every organization I've been involved with over my 35, 40 years of doing that kind of stuff. I think it boils down to 2 things. One is about communicating. Now, there's a lot of lovely communication. There's a ton of stuff on the website. I mean, it's almost overwhelming how much stuff is on suddenvalley.com. So then the question is, okay, we're presenting all that information to the members, but is it in the mode that they want to receive it? So some people do everything electronically. Some people prefer paper. Some people want a weekly or more often update on what's going on. Others don't want to hear about it maybe once a quarter. So that's the challenge, is I think maybe doing some surveys to try and find out how much they want and when they want it and how they want it. I don't know, maybe that's been done, but that's what comes up to me in my mind.
Thank you.
All right, Rob, go ahead.
Hi, Rick. My question is in regard to conflict and resolution of it. Often in teams, working in teams, there are times where conflict may arise. Can you think of a time where conflict was something that you had to deal with? And how did you deal with that and try to resolve it?
Yeah, so fortunately, it doesn't come up often in the boards I've been involved with, but but when it does, it can get pretty ugly pretty fast. Typically, in my experience, what usually drives it is either a preformed opinion about something, and oftentimes based on either incomplete or outdated information. And so generally, the way we've been able to resolve those types of issues is making sure everybody's up to speed on the current information and data that's available. And almost every time people will come together because they understand and they're working from the same set of facts.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time. There's
Okay.
no additional questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you're welcome to stay up here if you want, or I don't even need to ask you.
Sorry. Just listening to the response, not text. Here, you ready for me? Yes. Come in, please. I didn't know you.
Hi, Barbara. So at the podium, I encourage you to get very, very close to the microphone. If you don't do that, you won't be heard. The board has set aside 10 minutes for each candidate, and the first 3 minutes are yours for a personal introduction. So just tell me when you're ready to start, and I'll start the timer.
Okay, cool. I didn't think I'd be nervous. All right. Hello, distinguished board members, Sun Valley residents. My name is Barbara Wally, and a week from now will be my 3rd year being in Sun Valley, moving here from San Jose, California. I chose Sun Valley over other neighborhoods in Bellingham because of its proximity to Lake Whatcom, which I find very beautiful, as well as the forested environment, which I didn't really have back in Silicon Valley, which was, city suburbs. I really love all the amenities here, and I'm really passionate about living here. So that's why I'm running for the board of directors. I feel like you guys need a little bit of a fresh new face on your board. And by fresh, I mean somebody with fresh ideas, fresh perspective, fresh outlook, and someone who's not yet jaded by all the politics and history of this HOA. No mean intent meant by that, just kind of fresh, younger perspective. Sure, you're all wondering what qualifies me. Well, I've got 30 years of experience in project management, marketing communication, and business management, all from the high-paced semiconductor realm of Silicon Valley, which is, one of those industries where everything's very quick turnaround and immediate results kind of oriented. So I'm like really used to that. I also started my own side business in the entertainment sector. I managed bands, I put on shows, I produced music festivals. And to be taken seriously in the music business, you really have to be sharp and thick-skinned. Between the high-tech companies I worked with and dealing with musicians, I've worked in 2 of the most stressful and demanding environments, which has shaped me to handle pretty much any challenge that can arise. I've been highly regarded by managers and peers because I'm reliable, detail-oriented, hardworking, assertive, very organized, and able to multitask, all qualities that I believe are essential to have on a board. I've always been super motivated with a go-getter attitude, using strong ethical and moral code that were instilled by my parents and by my mentors. I also graduated from the University of Colorado with a bachelor's in communications, an education that gave me a vigorous background in public speaking, which you can't tell right now, intercultural communication, and conflict management, all attributes that I believe this HOA really needs right now. I've actually been very successful in my career and was able to retire early. meaning I have a lot of free time and energy to commit to the board duties and give it my 100% attention. One of my goals is to get residents engaged again, whether it's in activities, use of amenities, and voting, as it appears only about 2/3 of the homeowners are currently active in our community, or they've kind of tuned out, which I think is really sad. I've also started to educate myself on your governing documents, rules and regulations. And I'm part of the new emergency prep team. That's a focal point of interest for me as a resident. And I've applied last year and this year to be on the long range planning committee. So I'm doing all that because I'm really dedicated to Sudden Valley thriving. I really hope that you select me, as I would like to give you all my best. And I have a lot of enthusiastic love and passion for this community. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll move on to questions now, and we have, we'll start with Sonia.
Ooh.
Okay. Woohoo. All right. So at the last AGM, 2 advisory votes were placed on the ballots. On both votes, over 80% stated they did not want to see a special assessment used to fund a new pavilion or the replacement of the marina wet slip docks. As a matter of fact, 20% voted to not replace the marina wet slip docks at the end of their useful life. If you were appointed to the board, do you intend to adhere to the members' guidance and follow a funding plan that ensures no special assessment will be required or triggered to fund the marina wet slip dock replacement?
That sounds like a simple yes or no.
Yes.
So yes, I plan to.
What you plan to?
I mean, I plan, I actually voted with the majority for that, so that's how I would want it to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Stu.
Hi, Barbara. Thanks for throwing your name in the hat there and coming out here and subjecting yourself to the board. My question's it's pretty straightforward. You mentioned that a lot of the residents of the area are tuned out. So my question has to do with exactly that. Traditionally, we have very poor voter turnout here in Sudden Valley. What do you propose to do to increase more voter turnout to get a better representation of what the entire community is interested in having done?
That's a good question, and I thought about it a little bit. I think it'd be a very involved process. I think there's got to be kind of a whole revamp of systems to possibly get people reinvigorized. What's the actual word? God, English is my second language, so sometimes I mess up. Invigorate people back into wanting to be part of this. I think that as long as people keep seeing misinformation spread, and as long as people keep seeing negativity on social media, it's not going to help them wanting to get back involved. So I think to some degree, and I mean, I understand that there needs to be freedom of speech, but I feel like there has to be some little bit of control of how information is being spread here, whether it's true, whether it's false. And it's really confusing for a new resident. Like, it took me a good 2 years before I really started to understand what kind of was going on here, and that there's this background and this history. And I get that there's people who have strong feelings about that and they want to voice them, and they should be able to. But when it's presented in certain ways, it can be really frustrating for new people or people who've lived here for a long time to keep reading that. And so they disengage, because most people don't want conflict, right? There's very few people who are really going to stand up against things or really get vocal about things, where a lot of people will just tune out. So how to tackle that, I don't know what the answers are fully, but I think it's definitely something that should be discussed, and then figure out ways that maybe that can be, I hate to use the word regulate, but at least keep it more the way it should be, with truth and honesty, and maybe a lot more better communication. Sorry, that was kind of long-winded.
No, thank you. All right, Rob.
Hi, Barbara. My question is in regard to conflict resolution. Often when we work in teams, there can be conflict. And I'm wondering, have you experienced a time when, in working with a team, that there was some conflict, and how did you try to resolve that conflict?
I think conflict is pretty common anytime a bunch of people get together. I think it's really important for one, to listen to everybody, two, have somebody who's delegated to kind of neutralize things when they get heated. And I mean, people want to be heard, so that's one thing. And then the next is to make sure that when conflict happens, that it can be put to rest quickly, so it doesn't escalate to become more. And so sometimes that means tabling things. There's different ways to handle conflict, but I think that generally it helps to have a calm person be in that position that can kind of put things to stop them, I guess is the best way to say it, or to table them, or to let people talk in a different forum where there's less conflict or maybe direct contact, so that it negates some of that conflict possibly. I guess it all depends on the situation.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from, oh, Linda, excuse me, Linda?
I know I've seen you at a lot of meetings before. Do you think you feel more informed when you come to meetings and actually hear the board speak to things other than some of the stuff that gets put out on Facebook?
I think it's definitely helpful to be at board meetings. I can understand why some people don't want to come. They can be drawn out and tedious at times, and not everybody has either the time to do that or the bandwidth or attention span. But I definitely think that in-person things help because you get to know the people behind the voices. And you get to actually have conversations with them. I'm a big people person, so I always want to try to meet the people and get an idea of why they feel the way that they do, what history they have that got them to have that point of view, and try to get a better understanding of things. Other people are not as social as me, so everybody works differently. But for me, it definitely helps to see things in person and to witness them myself.
Thank you.
All right, perfect timing. Just ran out of time.
Cool. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Just waiting to go.
I was a little.
Hi, Susan. Thank you for coming. I want to let you know that in order to be heard, you'll have to be right literally up against the microphone. So go ahead and bend it closer to you or move it around so you're more comfortable.
All right, I hope this works.
Yeah, also we have 10 minutes for you overall, and the first 3 minutes are yours for a personal introduction.
All right, well, my name is Susan Miracle, and I was a president of an HOA for about 10 years. And it's much smaller than yours, believe me. I mean, we were down to 18 units, but we had very little money. So anyway, I wrote a list down because in the 10 years, there were certain things that I'd done. And you know, the question, why would I do this, is I actually like property management. I don't know why. I was a electrical engineer, worked on satellites and stuff, but there was something about coming home to the condo after you got a contractor to do something. And you would see, at one point we did a roofing project, I would see this whole building and the roof would be done. And I would be like, this is like so cool. Or I would walk around with the contractor and he'd say, we got dry rot here. Now, who could get excited about dry rot? But I thought it was neat. You know, we had one part of the building where there was just this piece of wood left. And, you know, and then we'd go back and we'd have to figure out, you know, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to fix it? you know, so anyway, that's the why. And in those 10 years, it was building and land management, contract management. I ended up doing we ended up, I think I bought in there, maybe I was there like 3 years, ended up with a $22,000 assessment. I had $22,000 for the assessment and other people had 27, depending on the size of their condos. And how does that happen? Well, that happens when you don't keep your reserve fund and on with your plan. And people don't like to do that because that means maybe they have to put in more money into the pot. But what happens is a new owner like me ends up picking up what other people should have been paying. And so then I managed it, which they really owed me 10% of that, because that's normally what a management person gets when they manage a contract. I also helped write the contract, which was really kind of interesting. I mean, the law is kind of interesting in itself. And so we had an attorney there. She couldn't help me because she was part of her partnership, didn't want to legally be liable. So she helped me, and with some other attorneys, I did the contract, which was kind of fun too. So as I said, I mean, I was doing satellites, but I kind of like property management. So on this list here is special assessments. I definitely know about reserve plans. I know why they're important. Liens, we certainly had to do our liens. Then we had common property issues where people didn't understand what common property really meant and then started moving their fences. And then we had one woman who moved her fence onto another guy's plot of his patio. And every time we had a meeting, it was like a divorced couple. I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Keep going, but try and wrap it up.
Oh, all right. So we had to do debt collections. I had to do a couple lawsuits. We had a divided membership. And what I found, even as an engineer, as a systems engineer, was that transparency. I mean, if you're going to get people to give you $22K, you better tell them what it's for. You better itemize it and you better introduce them to the contractor. And so when we did the $500,000 worth of work, we did that. We had everybody down there and they all knew where their numbers were and what they were. So I think I can end if you're fine.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll move on to questions now from the directors. We'll start with Sonia.
Okay, thank you. At the last AGM, 2 advisory votes were placed on the ballots. On both votes, over 80% stated they did not want to see a special assessment used to fund a new pavilion or the replacement of the marina wet slip docks. As a matter of fact, 20% voted to not replace the marina wet slip docks at the end of their useful life. If you are appointed to the board, do you intend to adhere to the members' guidance and follow a funding plan that ensures no special assessment will be required or triggered to fund the marina wet slip dock replacement?
I would go with what the membership wanted. A matter of fact, we did surveys. You know, sometimes it's nice. I don't know if you ever do surveys, but sometimes it's nice to put a survey out there and find out what the membership wants.
Okay, thank you very much.
Stuart.
Hi, Susan. Thanks for coming in and putting your name in the hat here for being on the board. So my question's it's pretty straightforward, and it'd be interesting sometime to hear your perspective about going from a 18 unit board to, or 18 unit membership to a over 3,000 unit membership. But traditionally here in Sun Valley, voter turnout is really poor. So my question is what would you propose we do to increase voter turnout to have a better representation of the community as a whole?
Well, I got to tell you, at an 18 unit level, it's not any better. A matter of fact, I think it's worse. I mean, try to get a board member out of 18 people. I mean, we had a hard time with a 3-board man. I don't know exactly. I mean, you know, when you have 18 people, you can go up and you can ask them. I knew everybody. I mean, you certainly don't have that here. So I'm afraid I don't have a really good answer to that question.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it.
Okay, so each of the board directors has a set of ballots in front of them. The voting for candidates will be iterative. We'll fill out the ballot and you're asked to select one candidate from the list of 6 and then turn that slip in to Michael, who's waiting here to collect them. Michael will tally them and then let us know what the results were. Each time we vote, our goal is to get 5 votes out of the 8 voting members for a single candidate. So with each round, we'll eliminate some of the candidates who got the lowest number of votes. Does that make sense? Does everybody understand how that will work?
So how does it work online?
Excellent question. Online, I will ask our board directors to use the private chat function to send me their selection and I will fill out their ballot for them.
Joanne, this is Rob. I would suggest that the voting board members that are online, that they try that functionality and maybe just type test, ensure that you're going to get
Rob, your
those.
sound just cut out. Your sound just cut out. You said, I suggest that the directors who are online do, and then you cut out. So what do you want them to do?
To do a test chat to you to make sure that their functionality is working.
Okay.
That's what we've done in the past. So they would choose you as the participant they're going to chat with and send a test.
So would that be Sudden Valley panelist or Sudden Valley host?
Say that again, Timmy.
Does she check?
Because I don't see Joanne's name on there. I have Sudden Valley host and Sudden Valley panelist. Is Joanne the Sudden Valley panelist?
No, Sudden Valley host.
Okay.
Okay, it says host. Awesome.
Panelist, you do it to Sudden Valley panelist. Also, I would like to encourage any of you that aren't appointed to the board to actually put an application to the Long Range Planning Committee, because I think you all were awesome and could contribute a lot.
I'll go one step further. We will have 4 vacancies in the fall. And we're also looking for board members then to serve for 3 years at a time, except the one, I believe it'll also be a 3-year term, I think.
Yep.
Yep.
I do want to say we were excited tonight, or at least I was, that we had 6 candidates. So I think that's so awesome. You know, I think that's great. So like Linda said, hey, come November, keep your hat in the ring.
Joanne, just a question. Who is logged in under Sudden Valley panelist versus who is the Sudden Valley host?
I think maybe Timmy can tell us. Timmy, who did you just message? Because I got it.
I just did Sudden Valley panelist.
Okay, so there's your answer, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, so directors, please fill out your first ballot.
Are you just going to call out the winner rather than the number of the whoever doesn't?
N&E is in charge of this process. They said they had to read out the result.
No, I'm hurrying.
7, yes. Wait, AJ isn't here and Lori isn't. 6.
You should have said that,
Only 6 people are voting here tonight. Okay.
but he did 4 then. Yeah, 4.
Sonia, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Rob, if we only have 6 directors in attendance, what is a majority? 4? 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me? Pretty loud. Okay.
Right up.
Okay, there we go. All right, so we got on our first round here, we have 3 votes for Ray Meter, 2 votes for Richard Asai, and 1 for Barbara Wally.
Okay, so I think what happens in the next round, we take out the folks who did not get any votes.
So we should we should cross out so actually you should only be voting this next round. Your choices are going to be Ray, Richland, and Barbara.
Okay, so
If Ray gets elected to the board, there will be an opening on the N&E committee also. And we're a front group. Okay, we're down to 2 people are left. I got 3 for Ray and 3 for Rickland.
What happens if we just do, how does it work?
we have to hope someone loses the ability to vote.
Or they arm wrestle for this thing.
Maybe we get back up there and they get to read the case or something. Or we can ask more questions.
There was one vote I went through that took 5 votes. Longest day.
Guys, we can't hear you online. That's okay.
We're just making jokes.
We got my Wally Long Range Planning Committee appointments are happening.
We have the same vote, 3 and 3.
Yes, what do we do now? Maybe we ask another round of questions or something? You guys up for that? I can ask a different question. Maybe.
Rob, any suggestions?
You could open up to an additional question like Sonia has suggested. You certainly couldn't do it by a coin flip. That's not fair.
Ray, do you want to step up first since we interviewed you first? I don't think so. I'm okay. Yeah. Are you guys okay with that if you're both present and everything? We're okay if everybody just hears questions, right? You're okay. All right, well, do you want to step up to the podium then? So, what do you love most about Sudden Valley and what do you like least about Sudden Valley?
Wow, that's a pretty good question.
Right, you have to get right up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love the scenery, the water and the trees and the people. That's the awesome part. I think the only part that frustrates me is the lack of maintenance in areas. That frustrates me. I'd like it all pristine, of course.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Are we only doing one at a time? Is that it? Okay. Anyone else have that? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ray. I think, one of the things that really draws us here, my wife and I, is just the natural beauty. I think because we're kind of outdoorsy people and like to get out and exercise, I like to golf. So I like the golf course too. I think, the things I don't have a lot of criticism about Sudden Valley. I think it appears from everything I've been able to read over the last year's agendas and minutes and YouTube videos that the organization has a really good handle on collecting enough funds to do maintenance. You never have enough. You'd always like to have more. But I think there's a good system of prioritization. So I really appreciate that there's a strong ongoing effort to be able to maintain and protect what we have here. I think a couple things come to mind about what I don't like, and it's not really Sudden Valley per se. It's some of the behaviors. Driving way too fast in some of these residential road areas. I mean, there's kids and families, and some of us are not moving as fast as we used to jump out of the way of fast moving vehicles and that. So I think, and that's a challenge. The other thing, and I'm probably going to maybe step on some toes here, but in doing a little more reading on suddenvalley.com about the Architectural Control Committee, there's some pretty clear guidelines on what is expected, which is great. I like that standardization. I think it helps maintain property values and the pleasantness of our surroundings and buildings and homes and yards. What I see though is a lack of consistency in what is actually happening in some regards. And I'm going to stick my neck out here a little bit, but in terms of outdoor lighting, I believe the code says that they should be down directed. And I see quite a few, and I'm gonna have to raise my hand. I'm guilty. I didn't read that when we replaced our outdoor light fixtures. We have some clear ones. So I've got to go back now and figure out how to manage that, either get some frosted glass or a metal shade. But that gets back to my earlier comment about there's just so much information on suddenvalley.com. And I know we all signed when we purchased, we're going to read that and we're going to abide by that. And I intended to do that, but I messed up, can I say? I mean, so that's one of the things I think inconsistent or lax enforcement of some of the things that I think are well intended. And I think it does help protect the ability to look at the night sky when lights are directed down and not in your face.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, directors. Consider carefully how many hours you have left in this evening. I have more paper.
She's stacking up.
A whole stack of paper.
Down your-
Tiebreaker.
Tiebreaker it down.
You guys are gonna have to arm wrestle. I got a feeling. We're still at 3 and 3. 1, 2, 3 for Rickland and 3 for Ray.
Okay, we're gonna have an additional question. This is for Spencer. No, just kidding.
The dark ones.
Is this
Ray?
Hey, Joanne?
Yeah, Ray, if you would step up to the podium.
Roll the dice here any second.
Right, thank you. So my question is about the role of the board in the HOA. Our bylaws clearly define the role of the board of directors as one of governance, which is to direct the overall strategy of the association. And often many of the actions of the board descend to the mundane. They concern themselves frequently with the operations. And while I understand that it is the operations that we all experience on a day-to-day basis, the bylaws are clear. Can you share with us all your thoughts on what the role of the board of directors should ideally be in your perception? Does it adhere to the bylaws and remain a governing body, or does it concern itself with the day-to-day operations of the association?
I think it's stated right there and that they are doing, the board is doing the direction for Sudden Valley. Also, you got to do the mundane, day-to-day maintenance and information and support the general manager, and the general manager brings the needs to the board, and the board complies or tries to fill what is needed. Long-term direction, I mean, I think there is a committee put together that is talking the future of Sudden Valley. I think that is chaired by, should be a person from the board. And then I think there's a committee, and then they report back to the board to bring information. I mean, if the marketing part was all together when I was raising my kids and that information got to Seattle, I could have moved to Sudden Valley and raised my kids here. But all the emphasis was marketing up north in 1978. So I missed out. But I think being on a board like this with so much, there's going to be some mundane stuff, but this also, you got to think of the future and guide everybody. And I'm thinking the real future is in the kids and long term. If you can get the kids to run, work here, go to school, come back and want to buy houses here, that's going to be a real strong community for us in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same question, sir.
So the question is about the role of the board and where its boundaries are, really. Yeah. So yeah, I really appreciate it. I watched the YouTube presentation of Rich Davis and his example explaining what the role of the board is, and it was very clear and concise and very consistent with all the other boards that I've been able to serve on. And it's very clear that boards typically, and as stated in our bylaws, are charged with setting policy, direction, and guidance. The only official interaction between the board and staff is typically between the president and the executive director, or in this case, general manager, Joanne. Unless a staff person has been assigned to maybe staff a committee or something like that, where you have that type of interaction. But very clear, the board is not involved with the day-to-day. That's Joanne and her staff's duty. The board is strictly set to determine policy, set direction, and manage the fiduciary obligations of the budget, taking care how to pay for things, basically. And then that's usually delegated. The enactment of that is
Are we voting again? The audio cut out there.
Oh, we're going to vote again. So Stu and Timmy, send me your votes.
Next vote won't be anonymous. How about that? Oh, I wonder if that changes anything. Anonymous. What did I say? I think I said, I think I did say that. Anonymous. I meant anonymous. Who the heck knows what I'm thinking? It's already late. Meant the next vote won't be anonymous. That's a joke, by the way.
We're still 3-3.
Current or former NNE chairs, any suggestions? Do we keep doing this until someone breaks or what?
Literally, that's kind of what has happened when you get down to two. Is one I've had in the past, I've had two people that both had the same number of votes. And basically one person stepped down and the other person took the directorship because we were locked in the sort of situation that we were.
Okay,
It's been for forever and ever and ever ago, but
all right.
And if there were 7 people voting, this wouldn't happen.
Also, should we delay the vote until we have everybody here? I mean, is that?
So
I don't think we can do that, Sonia, being that, the other people who aren't here didn't get a chance to hear the responses to the questions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good, Linda, you had your hand up?
I was gonna say, I think the only person is Lori that can't join us. And it's like, we could delay it. It says in the bylaws that the board endeavors to fill the position within 60 days. Do you wait and have a special meeting in a week or whatever? Or have them come back at the second? I just, I'm saying it's not in stone that if you want them to come back and have the opportunity for AJ to possibly join us, Lori to join us, so that we have a full board. Or as much as we can, there'll be 8 of us and then there'll be 4.
Yeah, well, because it seems apparent to me, no one's changing their vote. Is that correct? Like
Yes.
all of us in attendance are sticking with the votes we have, right? So do you want to make a motion to do that?
Yeah, we can't hear you guys, but I think what you're suggesting is, Linda, I think what you're suggesting is a possibility of having a special meeting, invite Rick and Ray to come back, maybe ask 2 or 3 questions, and then go from there and vote from there.
I think that would be a good idea. I just, I don't think any of us are changing our opinions. Both of them are extremely qualified. And we have 2 people that aren't voting now that haven't really heard what they have to say. They can listen afterwards, but they're not here for voting. So I guess that's where I'm tempted to go.
Okay. If we were to have a special meeting next Thursday, do we believe that we would have directors able to attend? And is Rick and Ray available to attend next Thursday?
Gentlemen, what's the date next? You can't. Thank you.
our next
No,
meeting. So
That's our next meeting. It's the first is.
Well, they can both make it.
So they both can make it on the first. We're gonna have a special meeting at 7 o'clock,
Just for that.
just because we're deadlocked. I don't know any other way to go. I need a parliamentarian to tell me that there's another option. Because I don't know that there is.
I'm not quite sure what else we could do.
okay, let's try one more vote here and now, and then if this one does not change, then I propose. Did we hear from candidates that you can be present on the first?
Both can be present on.
Okay, and then we can confirm that with the absent directors tonight, then follow up to confirm the timing of the meeting. But let's get,
We only want one of them to attend the next. Might be the same.
well, we've waited 8 minutes and time changes everything. I don't know. Do you guys want to do one more round or not?
One more round would only take just a couple minutes.
Yeah, okay.
We
So
could try it.
up all our paper. She just wants us to use up all our little slips here. Record books here.
Joanne's gonna need a big shredder.
Like here. And I got mine. I'm not voting.
No, this is. I didn't think we would need this.
Okay.
Ballot. You see
Yeah.
Sorry. I was letting it go. It's so late. I'm like,
Oh,
I don't even know what.
we have a long way to
A
go.
long way to go. You know
Oh,
that saying about my.
I'm going to adjourn the rest of the meeting till this other special meeting.
We have a 4 and 2.
That's a surprise.
Is that good enough?
That'll work.
Good enough.
That works.
Yes.
You got, let me look at my little thingies here again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Rickland has 4 and Ray has 2.
Right. Well, that was a good idea.
Good
Joanne.
idea.
Well, Ray, thank you so.
I think we've clearly
much.
demonstrated that the board has a deep respect and appreciation for all of the candidates. So thank you very, very much.
I was all for arm wrestling.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
just so that Rick knows, he's elected and seated and can take a seat at the board table at this point as a board member.
It should be okay. Yes.
I have many that are active.
Yeah. By round.
Boy, thanks for hanging in there.
Congratulations. You s-
Yeah, 'cause he's put in a lot of- Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate that, and congratulations, Rickland. Yes, sir. All right. Gonna move on to item number 7, which is being handed out right now.
Heath, while things are being handed out, just to mention, Rickland actually likes to go by Rick, just so you guys know.
No, that's ain't gonna happen here, but thanks.
Okay.
Did everyone get one of the GM report? All right, very good. All right.
Awesome. So we're back on track with the general manager's report. This is a monthly report, including an activity summary for each of our departments and some bullet points from the GM. The December report is brief. There will be a more comprehensive report to be read in next month in February for the month of January. The current report is for the month of December, which feels like a long time ago, but in fact was only 3 weeks ago. In December, Sudden Valley community celebrated the season with our first annual tree lighting event. I'd like everyone to know that that beautiful 20-foot tree of lights that illuminated the green next to the community center was built by maintenance using very inexpensive parts found on Amazon at the last possible second. We hope to continue to add to the decorations for the green over time using the same approach. So we'll have a gorgeous display, but it will be very affordably obtained. And we're using all LED lights. So the amount of electricity that we used was also managed appropriately. In December, while Whatcom County experienced near record rainfall, we were very grateful that the higher temperatures meant we didn't have to plow or sand the roads. As everyone realizes, we made up for that in January, of course, with a challenging snowstorm, low temperatures, and icing. Not listed in my report since it's about December, but relevant is some information about the storm that we had. the exact same techniques and even more hours than we spent on some of the storms last year did nothing to alleviate poor road conditions throughout the weather event. And the reason for this is that colder temperatures maintained a stubborn snow and ice pack on most of the roads that the plows could not break through. Our maintenance and facilities manager, Mike Brock, was in contact with his counterparts in Whatcom County and at the city, and everyone was experiencing the same issue. The plows couldn't break through that layer, and so successive dumps of snow and rain and ice went on top of that layer and made the road conditions very challenging. Here in Sudden Valley, on Friday, when we got higher temperatures that started melting that packed snow and ice layer, we had fewer people plowing because we had dozens of trees down and across the roads. We had them on houses, and we had them on the roads. And it was our first priority to respond to removing the trees so that the roads remained open for emergency services. This meant that less resources were available for plowing. We do bolster the resources of our maintenance team during plow season or winter weather events by collaborating with our turf care department, who are also trained in using heavy machinery. So we had continuous staffing. Many staff members worked 14 or even 15-hour days, and we were responding with multiple shifts. We were throwing everything we could at it, but the weather conditions defeated us. So we all apologize to the community that the roads were challenging, but I did want everyone to know that, like I said, the same tactics and techniques were used as last year, and it was simply a matter of when events occurred and what the temperatures were. Returning to my December report, the asphalt repairs project was completed in December with the last few areas being paved. And I'm happy to say that in February, we will bring forward the 2024 roads projects to the board for consideration. Administration had two very large projects finish up in December. We made the last few upgrades to our network. This work was a follow-up to the installation of a new server in the November timeframe. The server upgrade was needed to ensure that SVCA systems remain secure. This was a reaction to Microsoft deprecating Windows Server version 2012. When a server version becomes unsupported, it simultaneously becomes easier to hack. And that's a long discussion. If anyone's interested, we can talk about that. But we're upgraded with not only new hardware, but also the most up-to-date server software. And our security has dramatically increased along with the performance of that particular piece of hardware. The second large project that we finished up was the full implementation of staff benefit changes that were made as a result of open enrollment for staff in November. And I'm highlighting these projects because they underscore how the work of administration is pretty much invisible. People just expect the network to work. They expect their benefits to be correct. It actually takes a lot of time and effort to do that. And we support in administration both the staff of the association as well as the community in many critical ways. So I wanted to call that out and thank all the folks who contributed to that. The remainder of the report you can read at your leisure, and we will go ahead and post this as an addendum to the agenda. So if the community wishes to access the GM report, they can do so by going to the board archives, and it'll be an addendum to the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Does anybody have any? Okay. Yeah. Who had first? Okay, Sam.
I would actually like to move up the announcement of our members for the long range planning committee, so the person doesn't have to sit here through all of the rest of the stuff.
Oh, did anyone have any questions on the GM report real quick, and then we'll
So
okay, we'll let Sonia go first.
Yeah, I'll hurry. So I realized this is a December report, but you kind of touched on the snowstorm. And I heard that there was a slide or a small slide on Southern Court. can you address what actions are being done with that? Or is that something that's going to be on the next GM report that you'll bring back to the board?
I don't want to leave anybody hanging about a lounge slide, so now that it's out there, I think we should address it right now. As longer term residents will remember, back in the flood of November 21, one of our roads, Southern Court, also known as Gate 28, was impacted by the large amounts of water, and there was a question at one point whether the road would need to be rebuilt. The board at that point funded a project to restore the road. It is now fully functional. But since that time, we have continued to monitor it using a professional geological survey group. When we saw the enormous boulders that had come down on Southern Court last week and were immediately reported by security on one of their patrols, we reached out to the geologic consultant who had done the original inspections and had him come out immediately to assess whether there had been any movement or whether he perceived that there was a threat to that roadway. His inspection came back to say that it was an isolated event, a rock shear, and the enormity of the rock shear caused some movement in the soil as well, but that there was no appreciable change in the safety of that roadway. So we missed potentially damaging situation and dangerous situation. So we followed up immediately with the appropriate expertise because we don't want anything to happen. And we found out that in the opinion of that geologist, it was an isolated event and the roadway is still sound.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was good news.
Super good news. Yeah.
Okay, Linda?
Did the boulders that fell on the roadway damage the roadway?
No, we checked that. And we have recently received back, back in December, we got our enormous backhoe that caught on fire.
To work immediately.
Yeah. And it was a great thing that we had that for all those enormous trees that fell down, because it really is the only thing that can lift them up and move them off the road. So yeah, we were lucky on that one.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional comments on the GM report or questions? Okay, does anybody have any problem with us moving up for the announcements for the long range planning committee?
We have to vote on the.
No, it's fine to move them up.
Yeah.
He has to move them up, and I see no reason why we can't do that.
Okay. You say you want to vote to move it up? You're making a motion to move it up?
Make a motion.
Make your motion.
Make a motion to move the appointment of members to the long range planning committee up on the agenda.
Second.
Okay, that was timing. Okay, all in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
We would like to have Adam Phillips, Adam Tullis, Barbara Wally, and Sonia Volt placed on the long range planning committee.
What was the other Adam?
Tullis.
Tullis
And Sonia?
And Sonia.
and Sonia, Barbara Wally, and Adam
My
Phillips.
number in good standing.
Phillips.
Adam Phillip. Sonia and Barbara. Is it Barbara or Barbie? Definitely. Okay, all in favor of the appointments to the long range planning committee? Opposed? Yeah, we're congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry you had to wait so long. Okay, so that was basically 10D that we just took off, item 10D. All right, so we're going to move back up to the financial report, which is item number 8, November 2023 financial report.
In the interest of an expedited delivery of the financial report Is it okay if I don't display it? It's gonna take me a while to get that thing to even turn on again. Okay.
We put that screen up.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad. I feel bad for you.
Realizing she doesn't want to take chances.
So is there a reason that Joel's not presenting the financial report?
What's that?
He presented the financial statements at the finance committee meeting. So if anyone would like.
Not record it. We can't view it.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, but if normally it would be recorded, when a meeting doesn't happen during a breaking weather event, we can be more reliably record it and then it'll be available. But Joel is available for questions. Should any member of the board of directors wish to follow up with him on any of the items.
I just have one thing. I'm concerned about that because what if we do have, so the only way that we would ask questions is basically they'd be private questions. And so the whole board can't hear the responses and everything. Or if we're following up with questions to the finance director over the financial report, we should copy the entire board so the whole board hears the response. Is that the direction we're receiving?
Well, if you have questions, you can raise them to me and I'll get them answered and return the answers to the entire board if you would be more comfortable with that. But if you want to have an in-depth discussion about something, I would suggest that a direct exchange or meeting with Joel would be ideal for that.
Right, but what you're telling us is that he's no longer going to be attending board meetings and presenting the financials. Our financial director is not going to be reporting directly to the board and explaining the financials to us. And so he's not available for direct questions. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that the finance director is not at tonight's meeting and I am giving the report tonight.
Okay. Tonight.
All that I'm saying.
It's the second time it's happened.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it wasn't permanent structure, yeah.
He should be doing it every month.
Yeah.
In your opinion, yes, thank you.
As the former treasurer, I'm just saying it's much better if he's available to the board.
Thank you for sharing your opinion. Is everyone ready to begin? Do we have any
We're ready.
conversation?
Yep, we are.
Awesome. Okay. So an examination of the first page of the financial reports for November 2023. This is the balance sheet, which I'd like to remind everyone gives us a snapshot in time of the overall economic condition of the association. And the overall impression of the numbers reported on the balance sheet is that the association has a strong performance, not only when compared to budget, which is what is given in the report, but when you pull up last year's financial statement, you can see that even when compared to last year,
Sorry.
the wow.
Sorry, I'll mute.
The financial performance currently is stronger than it was last year. And I'd like to call out just a few comparables. On the current November 2023 financial statement, our operating cash is about $600,000 compared to last year in November. It was $384,000 approximately. Total current assets this year, $1.2 million, last year, $969,000. So we're doing well and we're doing better than budgeted. So that's a very good thing to know. You can you can look down the page and see current assets under capital, and then member equity, which obviously tells us the overall evaluation of the association. And you can see at 20,973,898, we're better than anticipated in the budget, which would have had us at 19,177,715. Taking a look at last year, total member equity last year at this time was 19,587,577. So we have almost $1 million of improvement in total member equity last year over year in November. The balance sheet is confusing because it's very much an accountant's document. What it's best used for is understanding sort of the temperature of the finances of the association. So looking at it specifically, it doesn't directly tie out to the more granular reports that you find included in the rest of the financial statement. And so diving in more deeply, we turn to page 2, which is the income statement summary. And the income statement does tie out to the other reports that are given in the financial statements every month. And so it's a document that can help to identify problems. And then the rest of the full financial statements can be used to dive in and get details about the individual categories performance so that you can arrive at answers. From my observation of the income statement, the first and one of the most important things that I note is that we have a 97.8 collection rate compared to last year when we had 97.6. So we not only are continuing the extremely positive performance on collections, but we have an even better percentage. Looking ahead to December, we calculated that on the fly this afternoon, and we're holding at 97.8. So we should have a very strong year for collections overall. Glancing down the year-to-date columns on the income statement, the two things that stand out to me are budget overages in the expense category. CCNRs is over by 136,000. And in regulatory compliance, we're over by almost $69,000. The overage in CCNR and mandates is directly attributable to two categories of expense, legal fees and the increased costs of security services. And the security services that we refer to in this instance, in this category, are the costs of providing 24-hour guard service. And we've had discussions at the board level before explaining how that happened. As you all know, the budgets are set in the summertime and they're voted on in the fall, and then they're set in stone. And last year, right around the time of the election, our security service provider came back to us with an ultimatum of pay us more or they'll cancel the contract. And since we need a security service, we increased the funds at that time, but we couldn't increase the budget. So while we're showing over to budget in that category, I think it's important to point out that overall operations is showing a surplus. So what we did was what good managers do, which is to say, we're over in this category. We need to watch other categories of spending to keep them in line. And then we adjusted our spending to reflect the fact that we collected additional revenue. And that's shown at the top, obviously, of the income statement. We had very strong revenues in golf, showing more than $300,000 over their budgeted revenue. We also had a strong season in the marina and strong collections, so that other income looked also over budget. And those overages in the income have more than offset the overages on the expense side as well. So again, it's a very strong economic position for the association.
Joanne, can I interrupt? Just to clear up on the
Get close to your mic.
Sorry. Oh, closer. With the security increase in cost and security, had the contract come to completion and then we had to sign a new one, or they changed the numbers mid-contract on us?
The experience of the association in 2022 was tumultuous in that there were several different board directors. There was a period of time when there were several different general managers during that year. That was before I joined. I joined in at the very end of 2022 in August, and I was the end of August, so September, and then I was named GM in October. Anyway, during that year, it was pretty tumultuous, and the security service had given us notice of a price increase, but it was not addressed. and they ran out of patience and we had no time to negotiate. And so a new contract had to be created after the budget had been solidified. I think that the current contract we have, and the board earlier in the year had the opportunity to view that contract, and anyone who wants to see it can request it. That's open to members. The contract is a sound contract. The rate is a fair rate, and the service that we receive is very good. So there's nothing wrong with or questionable about the security service that we continue to contract with. Even our intent is to continue with them in 2024 as well. The problem with the budget document is that the negotiation of that contract happened after the budget was approved, so we couldn't change that, and it was quite a significant change.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Page 3 of the financial statement is a summary of our reserves, cash balance, and activity. This is a good thing to look at to just get a sense of where we're saving our money and how it's allocated on the capital side. The number to draw your attention to is in the first column labeled SURF, and that is the fund from which we repair and replace various capital assets such as buildings, trucks, things like that. And the line to look at is obligated expenses and holdings. It's right above the net usable cash balance line, which is bolded. And you can see that there that the board has approved $1,586,495 worth of projects to be funded from SURF, and that's work that we're working on this year. So there are a lot of capital requests to come before the board in the early part of the year to ensure that we can assign contracts, because some of this money that was obligated has not yet been contracted out. And it is through the assignment of those contracts that we'll actually get to complete the work. So that's a good indicator that the board has a lot of work to do. And the association and our contractors have a lot of work to do on capital projects in the coming year.
So do we have a schedule or calendar that kind of gives us an indicator? Like,
I'm sorry, Sonia, I didn't hear.
do we have a calendar or a schedule that's an indicator of when those are coming forward? Like, I'm just a little concerned that some of these, like they're, if we're running everything through the finance committee, and that we're going to end up in a bottleneck in another month.
Yes, I anticipated that. So in December, I had a meeting with Tyler Andrews, our project manager, and Mike Brock, our maintenance and facilities manager. And the three of us sat down and set a schedule. And so we feel confident that we will be bringing forward the capital requests to the finance committee in advance of the board meeting. The second board meeting of the month will be the one where we need to deal with the capital requests. So you'll see the lion's share of them coming in January, February, and March. And then after that, it will be the smaller ones that are not time sensitive. So in partnership with those two gentlemen, I set the schedule. Are there any other
I was
questions?
laughing at myself breathing into the microphone. I apologize. I didn't realize that was me doing that.
Joanne, I have a question. So in roads, have a huge mitigation assignment, 92,000. Do we know why or what project? Is it just cumulative of all the bigger work we did that's still open?
That's a great question. It's cumulative. There's one project that Joel has to work to get back the mitigation funds that's over, and we just had to put down additional funds, I think for culvert 315 or something like that. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wonder, it
is a very
huge,
big
just
number.
really
Yeah,
big number.
it is a big number. I tend to skip page 4 because it talks about November in great depth. I'd rather look at page 5, which is a summary of operations costs year to date. And this is a place where you can start to get more detail. You can see that the overage that I talked about in expenses to budget for ACC and security. First line, you can see it highlighted there. Overall, the fact is that we have a very strong surplus in operations, which, by the way, is not our goal. We aim to spend all the money we have in operations, but last year we underspent on salaries. We made that up in some ways, or we offset that by hiring contracted contractors to do some of that work. But we still have an overage on salaries that we didn't spend down. And then the remainder of it came from very good golf experience this year. I do have a couple of things to call out. Primarily, it's about the golf revenue because it's just so strong this year. But if we look at a combination of salary and other expenses, our total expenses in 2023 were $1,071,884 compared to last year, $925,844. But the difference where we have this year, I think a positive 227,900 for that category compared to last year of a positive difference of 146,000. So we have $80,000 additional positive revenue, positive income when compared to last year. So not only did we have a good year, we had an even better year than we had last year, which had been our previously best year to date on golf. So I'm not Joel, but hopefully I pointed out the highlights from the financial statement for y'all. Are there any questions? Thank you.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 8, which is continuing business. And we have item 8A is going to be the code of conduct discussion. Basically, the idea of bringing the code of conduct around was to have some, I don't know, bring a sense of ease to the board, that we know how to respect each other, behave with each other, to interact with each other, not only in our meeting here, but when we're out and about on Facebook or social media. There's been some issues, as everybody knows, it's not secret in this community that, especially during the last election, there was some issues that came up. So we thought this would be a good way to kind of address those issues and make it feel more comfortable for the community and for people to join the board. So we have a couple things to discuss. We're discussing the code of conduct tonight, and then 9B would be the grievance process for board directors and committee members. And we're trying to bring the committee, we want everyone to feel the same, that when you come here to volunteer your time, that we understand we all have differences of opinions and different views, but we should be able to come together, respect each other, respect those differences, and try to figure out a way to work together peacefully, because ultimately we're all here for this community. We're not here for my narrative or your narrative or his narrative or anyone's narrative. We're here for the community. And so this is just a way to try to make that happen. In doing this stuff, I had a lot of conversation with Joanne about this and with the execs, and Linda brought up some things that this isn't the first time this has happened. As you can imagine, with a board, these things are common occurrences. And so I'm not familiar with that. It's the first board I've served on in this capacity. And so I felt a little naive and embarrassed that thinking that, hey, I had this great idea that we're going to come together and sing Kumbaya. So it's nothing new, obviously. And, and I'm just hoping that we can do this thing voluntarily. We'll all look at each other. We're going to make a commitment and make an agreement basically with each other that it's not a big deal. It's just really common sense to me, but just treat each other with respect. And with that, so there's a lot of discussion. You should have some papers in front of you. We've had this for several weeks now, and unfortunately haven't been able to talk about it. Oh, you don't have it?
Oh, but I read it already.
Okay. Yeah, so we were postponed it a couple times because everyone couldn't be here, and then again, everyone's not here again tonight. So I don't know how far we'll go with it, but we'll touch on it, and then and maybe get some comments or whatnot from the board.
So are you addressing both of these things at the same time, the code of conduct and the grievance process? The
we thought
same
they're
conversation?
two separate things.
Right.
They kind of obviously go together. I mean, it was an interesting thing. So you know why the grievance process came up, right? And so the code of conduct is something I was already kind of evolving, trying to get to that and work with Joanne on. And then you brought up the great thing about, hey, we should have this grievance process and get that done. And I guess it's already been in place, but again, not utilized. So they kind of go together, but they are separate individual things. And the one thing I was working on was the code of conduct, or what do we call it? Yeah, code of conduct. And then the other one is a little more legalistic, right? So we're going to send that one, the grievance issues, to our attorney and have him look that over and make sure that everything is correct on that. And the other one is strictly just kind of amongst us, if that makes sense. And then I know I'm talking a lot. Real quick. So Sonia was kind enough to send me the RCW 24.03A.495. It's a standard of conduct for all directors. This has been in our binder. I don't know if we're on YouTube or not, but this thing has been in our binder. And to be quite honest, I've never looked at it myself. But there are rules and regulations that we are supposed to abide by, and we just forget that stuff. So we thought it'd be nice to have this for everyone to just to look at and remind ourselves of that. At the same time, we'll move forward with it, some additional things we might be able to do.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
And
no.
then go ahead, Joanne.
So just to organize the discussion a bit, the board members have previously been given 3 examples of different ways to approach a code of conduct. One of them was entitled A Commitment to Civil Behavior. In addition to developing something for Sudden Valley, what Keith just explained is that there's actually in the law a code of conduct already outlined for elected directors for an HOA board. And that's in the board orientation binders. So you've all had that for a while. So there is a legal standard that's out there for how elected board and appointed board directors are required to conduct themselves in terms of their HOA business. But I think what we're discussing here and have been discussing for a while is the commitment that we have to each other and how we want to conduct our business. The commitment to civil behavior cited 6 tenets that we would ask everyone to abide by. First one was to support the association's mission. 2, bring association-related concerns, issues, and conflicts to the board of directors for discussion and resolution. 3, offer and be open to alternative solutions when addressing a problem or issue. 4, show respect to each other as elected representatives of the membership, both during meetings and when commenting publicly outside of meetings. 5, promote civility during board meetings and tolerate nothing less. 6, maintain the confidentiality of material discussed during closed sessions and do not disclose the content or substance of confidential or privileged communications relating to association business. So those were in that one example. And item number 2, to bring association-related concerns, issues, and conflicts to the board of directors for discussion and resolution. Well, that gave rise to the need for the grievance policy or grievance process. Because if you have a concern or an issue or a conflict, what is the process by which that is brought? What happens? How is it managed? And so that is what gave rise to the need for a grievance process. I'm going to go a little bit further than Keith did and remind everyone that this past election was not only heated in terms of the discourse, but it also gave rise to conflicts that were brought to the courts. Members of the association sued other members of the association for things that have been said publicly during the election process. And that is extremely damaging to the association because to defend oneself in a court of law costs money. sometimes a lot of money. And even if it seems like a small thing, or the case doesn't seem to have merit, or whatever, however a lawyer might dismiss it, it's terrifying for the average person to be put into that situation. And it also demonstrates that there isn't a mechanism to resolve things at home in our own community, but that we have to go outside of the community. At least those individuals who were involved in the situation felt they had to go outside the community to get resolution. So the need for a code of conduct to which all directors can commit themselves is important, not only so that we're comfortable and efficient working together, but so that members of the community feel confident that they can serve their community by being a director or a committee member without the threat that when there's a disagreement, someone will sue them. So while it may seem simplistic, actually living these tenets, and they need to be wordsmithed, and they need to represent the feelings of the current director. But whatever we put down on paper, people need to take seriously and abide by it and hold each other accountable to it. Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone's questions deserve to be answered, and everyone needs to be treated with respect. And if we can do that, then conflicts can be resolved and we can make better decisions because we will have considered all of the angles. So I feel, and I'm putting forward this commitment to civil behavior as a starting place only. It's simple enough that we can feel like we own it and modify it to meet our needs. Linda has provided an example from the 2017 Board of Directors. I think that's the right timing, Linda. Correct. And it's also simple and something that we could consider. So that's viable too. The other example that I sent was drawn up by our legal counsel, Richard Davis, and mirrors more closely the RCW. In my opinion, and it's only my opinion, I feel like the RCW has us covered on the legal side. And this document that we develop is more about how we treat each other and what we can commit to. So it shouldn't be legally. Okay, but that's something to be discussed. And so that's out there on the table. And that's why that particular set of examples was used. Okay, so does anyone have any thoughts on sort of the situation that gave rise to or gave priority to the need for this discussion? Or so before we dive into it, are there any sort of general comment? Stu, Rob, Timey, I know you guys are hanging out there online. Are there any, do you have any comments to make? Quite it ahead of time, so I'm sorry. I don't get to it.
You know, just general concept of someone who's been in business and boards for a very, very long time. You know, I agree with the concepts 100%. You know, being on the board, it's all about treating people with respect and treating the community with respect, and how we represent ourselves to the community is very important. And how we represent ourselves to each other, it's very important. Everybody should be treated with respect, and we should do our best to understand materials presented to us before the meetings come in. Sometimes it's not always possible, and I'll be the first person to raise my hand and say I'm guilty of that because I'm just kind of up to my eyeballs in business stuff right now, but that's the way it is. I take being on the board serious, and I take my commitment to treating other people with respect seriously. And I think we should get a policy in place. You know, the examples that are on here, I would agree with you, Joanne, that the legal thing written up by Richard is, you know, the RCWs cover that. I don't think we really need something that in depth, but these other lighter general ones, I would agree that they're we should adopt some aspect of one of those. The only thing that I would caution is that it pertains to this community and this board, and granted, people should act responsibly and conduct themselves with honesty and integrity, in their general life. But this board does not have the right to have people or dictate to people what they do outside of this community. So, if my job is selling people sections of the Golden State Bridge, and that's what I do for a living, then this board can't tell me that that's dishonest and something I shouldn't be doing. That's just the way it is. But the board can tell me if I'm trying to sell part of the Welcome Center to other members of the community and say they get to own part of that, or other people outside the community. Yeah, you can say that's wrong, and you shouldn't do that. Kind of silly examples, but really that's what it's about. The code of conduct and stuff is about the community, the board, how we treat each other, and how we treat the community. And that's what it should cover and entail, and really nothing beyond that.
Okay, so Stu, I'm gonna play that back to you to make sure that I capture it appropriately in the notes. So basically, what you're saying is that you feel any code of conduct that we develop should be limited to addressing or should apply to our conduct while within the community, and being our relationship with other directors and in committees and with the association in general. Did I get that right?
Yeah, in general, and I mean, even if we're outside the community, sure, you have to respond, be act with integrity and honesty and stuff, but we don't really have the right to tell people what they do in their own personal lives outside of interacting with this community, in my opinion. And yeah, so I mean, that's in general, you've got that right. I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that, but they should, but that should not be in our governing documents, how people behave outside of this community.
Yeah, thanks.
Unless we're outside the community and we're, bashing Sudden Valley, then yeah, that's involving the community. And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to make sure I captured it properly. Timmy or Rob, since you guys are online, I'm paying a special attention to you. Do either of you have comments to make at this point?
The only thing I can say is I'm happy with either one of the shorter versions. The RCWs do, as you said, cover this subject anyway. But I think there's something to be said for actually looking at a piece of paper and putting your name to it. So I think this is a really good thing. But definitely, let's keep it short and simple. And I think it's a great step forward to reminding us to come together as a board and as a community.
Thanks. Rob, anything?
Yeah, I would say that I think that the framework you laid out was really good, Joanne. I also like a simpler, it's just straightforward. I think the civil behavior, the first one that we looked at is good. I think it's also good that we have a process where if we can't, we should try to resolve any conflict ourselves first in a respectful way. If we can't, and I think that process kind of indicates that, then we can go get help. So I think that's good. I believe the civil behaviors had a line for each of us to sign. And I like when there's a document that we all say, yes, we agree to, this is how we're going to behave. If we sign that, that's good. I think that would be good to put that in our agenda packet, so it's there at the beginning. Or Keith can allude to it as he's starting the meeting, that remember, there is this code of conduct that we have. I don't think that that's treating each other like little kids, but I think it's also reminding ourselves of what we've signed up to do. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank
Rick?
you, Rob.
Yeah, so the document that Linda shared, is that still current policy? That code of conduct?
We had a discussion and we had the attorney look at this. I would have to go back to 2017 and see if there was a vote taken on it.
Wasn't it?
I don't remember with
Okay.
going back and looking at the minutes of 2017 because it was a quite lengthy discussion.
Reminding everyone to speak into the microphones or it won't go into the.
It was a lengthy discussion. I would hate to say one way or the other whether it was approved or not approved. We've done these codes of conduct over the years, unfortunately, and they come and they go, and it's like, who's the judge and who's the jury? The attorney pointed out to us that there's nothing in our bylaws that require any sitting board member sign a code of conduct. It's not part of what you have to do to become a board member or to retain your being a board member. I guess I'd have to, if I had to pick between the commitment to civil behavior and the other code of conduct, I would do the one in 2017, mainly because I think that when you talk about the commitment to civil behavior, you say bring the association related concerns and issues. I might bring you something about a playground or something like that. It wouldn't be of a personal nature. It would be something that deals with the association. And that's kind of what it says in this earlier code of conduct, is that it deals with the problems of the association, not our interactions among ourselves. And it's like, I like that it applies to how you should be conducting yourself, besides your responsibilities. So that's kind of where I'm at with this.
So you prefer the 2017?
Yes, I do. The attorney looked at and the only thing that he said is that he wouldn't, because there's nothing in our bylaws that bind us, that he didn't know that signing it would be necessary or should be necessary. It should be just something that we agree to.
No, and I get, so excuse me. Yeah, so I get that. That is true. We don't have to legally sign it. It's not something that I wanted to. What are you looking for? Oh, I think you have them all in your binder. But
all right. Okay.
Yeah. The idea for me was that it gives us somewhat of accountability. We're sitting in front of each other. We're going to sign this document, looking each other in the eyes, and just kind of make that kind of thing. I get it. Legally, you're right. It doesn't have a lot of weight to it. And then that's kind of why the grievance thing came up, is because if it goes further, say we can't resolve it amongst ourselves, then we go one step further into that grievance process to hopefully avoid what happened here recently, where we could sit and try to arbitrate it, I guess, mediate it with each other, and resolve it. There's no reason why we should be going to court or anywhere else for this kind of stuff. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Rickland. Or Rick, I'm sorry.
Rick, yeah, thanks. So yeah, I like Exhibit A. I think another procedure that has happened in other boards that I've participated in is when a code of conduct like this is adopted or embraced, that it's presented at the board orientation meeting, that it's part of that kind of come to understanding of how we operate as a board. Just so everybody's on the page. I don't know about a reminder every meeting, but maybe that's necessary. First meeting, so.
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Sonia.
Well, I just want to remind everybody.
You got to talk louder.
So the 2017 Code of Conduct came about because the general manager and the board majority was trying to silence a dissenting board director. So they created that Code of Conduct to to silence him. That code of conduct has been put forward to us when we were the executives in order to silence Timey. We rejected that then, just like the board in 2017 rejected it, because there was so much community members filled this gym, this community center, and opposed it because they were outraged. It does have teeth to it. It was written by our attorney. And that's the 2017 document. And when you go to the attorney and you start complaining because you don't like how much board directors talking against you and there's a problem, he's going to tell you, put this code of conduct in place because that's how you're going to stop them from doing it. We did not want to silence any of the board directors, and so we did not put that forward. It's the 2017 document.
It's the big, long one. It's not the short one, it's the big, long one.
So that being said, I want to be real clear. I have no problem with a commitment to civility, but I'm in line with what Stu is saying, where these codes of conduct in this situation and in this community, they become a very dangerous weapon against each other because you do not want to silence minority board directors. It's actually exactly the opposite, because as we were just talking about the grievance process, because there's two things. Since Joanne brought it up, and as you both know, I asked for this to be discussed in closed session because it's a legal issue. But if you want to bring it up in open session, I want to be real clear so the community understands what we're talking about the grievance process. But basically, what had happened is that I was sued by a fellow board director for an action that I took as a sitting board director. We voted to censure that director, and then I was targeted and sued for it. Additionally, one of the candidates, who's now a sitting board director, took me to court over something that she was proven was a false accusation via our security cameras. But meanwhile, I had to go to court, I had to hire an attorney, and I had to pay those expenses in exchange for me not asking the association for reimbursement of my legal fees. What we sat down and talked with, I sat down with that other board director and you, Keith, and Joanne, and what we determined is the solution, because there was a couple of things that came up. One is that one of those parties, I don't know why it happened, what happened, but the other one, who's been a board director for a couple of years, she was a minority director, and she felt like she wouldn't be heard. So her first response was to go to court. You know what I'm saying? She didn't think she had another option. And this wasn't the first time that she had cost the association money in legal fees responding to a legal request. So the issue is, and I want to add one more thing. There's also now a former general manager who is sitting on our finance committee who has publicly attended these court hearings and said that he was raising funds to keep me and other like-minded board directors tied up in court or to see us gone. So for me, I feel like it is an unsafe environment to sit on this board and speak openly unless we put a process in place that says your first action, if you're a board director or a committee member, you're agreeing that you will mediate these issues. Because, like, for instance, with Timey, that could have been resolved. Ultimately, from our conversations, she did not understand what happened. There was a misunderstanding that could have been resolved if we had mediated that. I believe that, but we've already lost one board director for this very reason, for the fear of that, am I going to be sued for an action that I'm taking on this board? So we're going to have a problem getting good people on the board if we don't do this. And we also, like I said, you don't want to silence your minority directors. That was never the goal. And so this goes a long way to showing that everybody's safe
Yeah.
in this environment. So I just felt like I needed to clear that up.
No, no, that's
Keith, can I say something?
yeah, absolutely. Rob, go ahead.
So Sonia's laid out some case study about some things that have happened in the past. I'm encouraged that we have some things we could put in place going forward from what we've learned. When I was suggesting that I thought it would be good to that we would like the civil behavior, if we sign that, I'm not thinking so much of an attorney says we don't have to sign that or not. I don't see it as a legal requirement. What I was saying is to sign it is in the spirit of trying to get along and to do what's best for Sudden Valley. We're putting our name on it because we believe in it, and this is how we're going to live. We're going to behave and live. And if we don't, then the person sitting next to us could say, "Hey, what about that? What about that civil behaviors thing that we all signed?" Because you know what, I'm not going to sit here and say that I've never raised my voice during uh, when I was a sitting board president. I'm not perfect, but I think we really just need to talk about what we're going to do and how we're going to behave going forward.
I just want to be real clear. I'm not opposed to the commitment to civil behavior. It's the code of conduct, and it's for a lot of the reasons that Stu already mentioned, and the fact that the standards of conduct are already mentioned in the RCWs. And so if you want people to sign something, that spells out the board's fiduciary responsibility. And basically the same things that have already been touched on about, confidentiality, our obligations to each other in the association, those standards of conduct. I think if you want everyone to sign it, then maybe that's the document, in my opinion, that we should all look to and sign.
Well, thanks for that, Sonia, because I wasn't quite sure what you were supporting. We heard a lot about behaviors in the past, and Lord knows we've all lived through them. So I got a little confused. So thank you for clarifying that.
So let me ask you, Sonia. So then so we do commitment to civil behavior, right? And that's something we'd sign. We have that accountability thing. I get it. Signature's kind of silly, but it does have that accountability. And then we would put something on here to reference, like say number 7 would be reference the RCWs. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like make sure we don't.
Well, Rob, I think what Rob's saying is it sounds to me like what you're saying is there needs to be a list, right? And you want people to sign this thing that they can reference to. And I'm just saying that standard of conduct is that list.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah,
obligated.
Sonia, I think I'm probably not, and I want to beat it down too much. It's just when I was working, maybe we would have some accidents in the workplace. So we had a safety commitment, and we wrote out some bullets of this is what we want, what we stand for to ensure that people aren't hurt. And we just reformed. There was no line that said Rob Gibbs, or it was just we signed it like a Christmas card, frankly. And it was mounted in our area so that we could all see it. But that's all. It was more of an expression of I am committed to this, rather than I could be fired for it.
Right. I think the important thing to remember is that we don't need to sign or affirm or do anything about the RCW. The RCW is the RCW. It exists independently of our association, and it applies to us whether we want it to or not. It's the law. That's the nature of the law. So it's important for all directors to be aware of it and to know how it affects them. But like Rob was saying, what we commit to each other is a little bit different. And it allows us to be specific about our environment and to touch on things that we can return to when we are in conflict, to say, okay, how are we supposed to act to each other, and what should we do if something goes awry? And so if someone feels that they haven't been heard, right, that they're being silenced in some way, I feel as though what we commit to should give them the feeling, right? Or sort of a path that they can raise their hand and say, I don't feel respected or heard right now, and I'd like us to stop and consider that and do something different in this moment so that it doesn't escalate. Okay. And I think that similarly, if someone's angry about what's being said, that they can also feel like they can say, I feel as though this, this conflict has gone beyond what we want to embody or model as a group of directors. Can we take a breather and get back to something that is more civil? So to use it as a touchstone and a thing to remind everyone and give us permission to call out when you feel things are getting out of hand, so that we can address things in the moment instead of letting them continue on. I was very touchy-feely for someone who's a quantitative person.
And then further on that, so that would be the civil conduct. And then if we can't come to some kind of consideration there or under that, and we have to go further, then that's what the grievance idea is for, right? If it goes one step further, it prevents, more like a mediation type thing, or like we did, sit down and hopefully discuss it. I mean, we are all adults, so it shouldn't be too hard, and we're all really have the same interest, right? The Sudden Valley, I mean, ultimately. So that was the idea behind it. But I know it's getting late, and then we have a lot of work to do on the resolutions of grievances. So you have this, right? You guys have all this. So do we want to talk about this tonight, or do you want to read it and then go through it? Because I know there's a lot of people not here tonight.
So I do want to say that it will need to go to the attorney.
Yeah, but I wanted to do that. So after we're done and putting our input and all that, then that was the idea, that then it would go. Yeah, because we don't want to mess that up. So
Okay.
That's the plan.
But we need to feel ownership and comfortable with it instead of having it handed down from outside to say, okay, kids, here's your ground rules. Instead, we'll
I just
say,
wanted to be sure it was vetted and that that it was a legal document, so that we do have a proper mediation process in place.
Yes. Yes, hopefully so.
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
So as a follow-up, I will send the commitment to civil behavior, the short form code of conduct that Linda supports, and the grievance process, the draft, to everyone one more time. And then what you all need to do is to actually read it and make notes regarding whether you think something should be deleted, something should be revised, or something should be added that is missing. Okay? And that will then be brought back to the next meeting, and we can be specific and vote on what we want it to say.
Yeah, because then, like you said, then the attorney, by the time we get this, it's gonna be March, right? So that's why I got to keep on it now, just to get it in place, so. But I appreciate it, letting us talk about it tonight and touching base on this. It is an important thing for me, and, has been for a while. So I'm glad to see, although, like I said, Linda pointed out, it's been done numerous times before, but, hopefully we'll treat it differently. We'll treat it with respect.
I actually signed one a long time ago.
All right. So any other questions, comments, or concerns about that? All right. So we are going to move on. That was 9A, 9B. We're going to move on to 9C for discussions of golf. This is Stu. You added this?
Yeah, so as well, maybe you guys don't know, but this time of year, January, February is, it's kind of, well, in the end of last year, it's when things are getting said and decisions are getting made about golf. Golf employees are selecting where they want to live, or where they want to work and where they want to live, and they're making their career moves and stuff. We've had discussions about changing the structure of golf, possibly bringing in a management company, possibly Sudden Valley taking over the retail side of things. And I mean, these are all they're good ideas. But as I brought up on the last meeting, in order to properly evaluate those, it's going to take some time. Business plans need to be written, and just at the 10,000-mile viewpoint, more than anything, the golf course is doing real well. We're increasing revenue every year under the structure we're currently under. We have an employee who works for the association now who's interested in taking over as the director of golf. I would really like to propose that the association promotes him, because that does two things. One, it keeps the continuity of the golf going, and two, it helps morale in the pro shop and the employees. Anytime you have an employee that could be promoted and then they don't get promoted, it's just bad for employment. And I've been on both sides of that, and I've not kind of unintentionally did that to an employee before the employee quit. So I tend to be a little bit aware of this. And that's the person I'm talking about is Kevin LeDuc. He's an experienced manager of golf. He's managed golf courses before. Brian is here to help with the transition, and I really think it'd behoove the association to just make that decision, promote him to a director of golf position, keep the same structure we're in now, give Joanne the authority to negotiate a contract with him. And then we can evaluate the other things and spend the time looking at business plans, writing business plans if we feel like that may be a direction we want to go, and have a really good understanding of what it would mean for Sun Valley to take over the pro shop or take over the retail side of things, and what it would really cost bottom line. And I wanted to bring this up when Joanne was here, because Joanne has spent some time looking at this, and she has her opinions and input on that. And I would like her to share her opinions about that with the board, instead of me interpreting for her.
And awesome, Stu. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Joanne?
So Stu, I appreciate you sharing your opinions, but I find it to be inappropriate to discuss personnel issues in an open board meeting. So I will respectfully decline to respond to your suggestion. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Joanne. Any further discussion on golf?
I agree with Joanne.
Yeah.
I said I agree with Joanne.
Okay, well, Linda's first, then we'll go over there. Okay, Linda?
I was gonna just say, then let's, at our next meeting, which is the 8th of February, put it on our agenda to discuss this, have a closed session, and take care of it. Because we just keep pushing the stone down the road, and it's not getting us anywhere. We started looking at something else, and that's just come to a dead end, at least for me. It's like the conversation's been over with it, and it's like, I think.
No, that's not, yeah, I really, I need to respond to that in the moment, because what I have put out there are options for us to pursue. I agree with Stu that the pursuit of those options will require time and will require an investment of energy by people other than myself, okay, which would require that the board set up a work group, or make an assignment, or appoint people to work on a team to evaluate the different options. But the ideas that have been put forward are not at a dead end. They are at the very beginning of exploration. And if you want a full-blown proposal from your general manager, from me, I can do that, but it seems foolish to expend that amount of effort if it's not a team effort. And if it's going to be shut down from the very beginning, then that's a decision that can be made by this group. But to say that the subject is exhausted when it hasn't even been taken up seems a little outrageous to me.
Yeah, and let me reiterate that I agree with that, Joanne, on that. It's something that can be explored, but it's going to take a lot of time. So the board does need to make a decision how we're going to move forward with golf, because decisions kind of need to be made. But that doesn't mean this can't be explored. It does. I think it merits being explored 100%. But it's not something that's going to be done this month or next month. And at a minimum, it's going to take 6 months or more to do.
All right, Rick?
No, I just just back up to what Stu started his statement about, basically that now's the time when golf pros are making moves and time is of the essence.
Thank you. Sonia?
Oh, no, I'm agreeing with all of them. I agree with Stu and Rick, but also Joanne. It was the fact that names were being mentioned and kind of decisions were being made, and I just felt like that was kind of not inappropriate, because we need to be able to talk about our employees confidentially, for lack of a
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. I did speak out of turn there.
Do.
I think everyone's intentions are good. We have a very strong team. We're blessed with a very wonderful team of managers and employees on our golf course. And that is reflected in their excellent performance over the last few years, which I've shared with the board repeatedly throughout the year. So I think that there is a lot of merit to continuing on the path that we've set out in a way that doesn't preclude us as an association from taking a look at options that may advantage us as we try to develop additional streams of revenue for the association to offset the rising costs of maintaining our assets, so that the full burden of it does not fall on the dues paying members. It doesn't mean that dues paying members will be somehow deprioritized in their use of the amenities. The amenities are here for our members first and foremost, and we will help to preserve the amenities, in my opinion, if we can develop those external streams of revenue. So that's the only thing that I would add to this discussion is we have a great team. They've been doing a great job. We need to keep that trajectory. We need to do it in a respectful way, and we need to leave the association's options a little bit open so that we can look to see if we could do just a bit better.
Yeah, and not to reiterate things too much, but Joanne and I have had discussions about this, and I've offered to help her and whatever team we can put together to do this exactly, and I'm still happy to help with that. I think as a business person, I think it's something that merits looking at. It's going to take some time.
All right, then I would suggest, as Linda suggested, then on February 8th, and Sonia suggested, I think everyone then will come back on February 8th then, and we'll have a closed door session, and it'll be golf discussion for the golf director contract, what direction we're going to move.
Or whatever
Yeah,
other
exactly.
information Joanne has with other options she wants us to look at.
Well, I think the first order of business is absolutely what Stu has put forward and we've been discussing. What are we going to do in April? Because that's not the time to go out and hire golf pro, because they're already working somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Got it. Message received and understood. So we'll sort out what we need to do with the rest of this year to keep that positive trajectory. But I think we need to and would like to hear others' opinions on, should we do that in a way that leaves us some options for the future?
I think yes.
Okay, and that I can bring concrete suggestions for what we do in March or April to the February 8th meeting so that we can get final input and make a decision in a closed session.
Great. Thank you, Joanne.
Well, no, I mean, this is not the longer term option. We'll work on business plans or but we need a solid plan for April 1. Got it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Very good. Any other comments, discussions about the golf thing? Are we good to put that to rest until February 8th, and we'll have a closed door session to continue talking on that?
Do we need to vote on that? We do that?
Oh, it's just It's just putting it forward that if we're going to do this process, that we should probably schedule it our next meeting rather than putting it off and not setting a date.
Yeah, now you know it'll be on the agenda.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to move on to item number 10, which is new business. It's capital requests. We have 10A, 10B, and a 10C, and I'll turn that over to Joanne.
All three of these capital requests that we're reviewing tonight were vetted by the Finance Committee and recommended by them to come forward to the board for approval. To that end, I do not feel that our regular process of me reading the capital request is required because it's already been vetted by the Finance Committee. So instead, I will ask if there are any questions regarding the first one, which is the fleet replacement of asset OP1 and OP12.
That's related to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It is.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Here's a summary. The purpose of the request is to replace maintenance vehicle OP1 with a new Ram 3500 or equivalent. Maintenance vehicle OP1 has ended its lifespan and is budgeted for replacement. There's rust on the frame and it was taken out of service in 2023 due to safety concerns. So we haven't used it in 2023.
A quick question out of curiosity. What did we do with a used vehicle like that? Does it get sold or?
Yeah, the recommendation and the process we've followed in the past is when we retire a vehicle like that, if the dealer won't take it in on trade, we sell it on the private market. And the way we evaluate that is to compare what the dealer offers to the Blue Book value for the car. And we have 2 mechanics on staff, 2.5 probably, and they you can count half mechanic. But anyway, we have a pretty good estimate of.
I've been a half mechanic most of my life.
Yeah. Timmy has her hand raised. Timmy, do you have a question?
Yeah, just wondering because you have this particular vehicle with a VIN and everything, but this is not the specific vehicle you're looking to purchase. This is an example. If I was watching the finance committee meeting, and so this is not, you're still going to be looking at other options, but similar to this vehicle. Is that correct?
That is correct. So what we did was an exercise where we went out and we asked, we looked at Rams, Chevys, and Fords. And it is, we looked at what we needed in a truck. Do they have comparable models? Well, of course they do. All three of them have comparable models, but you can't buy a car over the process of a month and a half or 2 months, right? So we went and got quotes on the work that we need to take the stock vehicle from the dealer and get it ready to operate in the field, which is basically to install the snow plow header that, that you put the plow on and take it off when it's not being used. And the other part of this is there's a truck OP12, and OP12 needs numerous repairs. It needs front end work, a new fuel pump, airbag replacement, and some other miscellaneous things. But due to its age and its condition, the cost of those repairs exceeds the value of the vehicle. So what Mike is saying is OP1 hasn't been used since early 2023 because it's unsafe. We have budget this year to replace that truck. But really, if we put a fuel tank onto the new truck replacement, we can take 12 out of the lineup also. We won't need it. So we take 2 vehicles that are unsafe out of the lineup. We sell them or trade them in based on what our options, our best options are. And we offset the capital cost of the purchase. And we can do it all with the budget that's outlined in the capital plan. So
Okay.
the finance committee pointed out that they would prefer to see 3 quotes and be able, because that follows our process. But everyone who's ever bought a car knows it doesn't work that way. So what we're asking for is an approval of our plan and the total budget, not to exceed, the total budget amount. And then we will go to the dealership and we can start wheeling and dealing to get the best possible price. So that's the
All right. The only other thing I can kind of add to that, Joanne, is because this is the business that we're in, most dealers do not have a lot of commercial inventory. And if Mike wants to contact us, I can give you a couple of dealers that tend to specialize in mooring commercial vehicles than others. Not saying he has to buy from them, but if he wants a good starting place, and I won't give you those over the meeting here, but if he does want a couple of names to start at, just because we know that a lot of dealers just do not carry commercial inventory.
Yeah, that's a great offer and we will definitely take you up on that timing.
All right.
So the request is that the board approve up to $90,480 for the purchase of a new truck like a Ram 3500 or equivalent. 23,000 for the purchase and installation of a steel flatbed and accessories, 1,200 for a fuel transfer tank with a pump, 34,1872 to take the snow plow header off OP1 and mount it on the new truck. And that totals the 90,284 in our estimate. So we can do it within the budget number, which is up to 90,480, but obviously we're going to have to go out and make our best possible deal at the dealership. So.
Linda?
I have a quick question for you. There's the one bid that's in here for the 62,000. What dealer is this with? It doesn't say. It's got the name of a salesperson on it. It's got the name of the vehicle on it, but it doesn't have the dealer's name on it anywhere. Just curious.
That's a great question. I have no idea.
Okay, I'm just used to seeing a dealer's like Blade Chevrolet or something like that the bids come from. That's all.
Timey, because of your knowledge in this area, does that come from the dealer typically, or would that be a separate supplier?
Well, I know you can go on to, there's a couple of dealer sites. One is attached to Carfax, and we use AutoNeek, and you can just pull that up. It's a dealer sticker. So it doesn't necessarily have to have, like it's a manufacturer sticker rather that goes on the car. It doesn't necessarily have to have the dealer's name on it.
Okay, so that's probably where we got is what you're saying. All right. All right, well, if there are no questions, I'll ask one of the directors to make a motion.
I'll do.
Yeah, just read it.
Yeah. Oh, you can do.
Oh, you have it?
I'll do it.
Oh, you
I'll
have it.
do it.
Got it.
I would like to make a motion to move that the SVCA Board of Directors approve the allocation of $90,480 from SURF for the purchasing of a new maintenance truck and authorize the maintenance and facilities manager to work with the finance director on purchase and the sale of these items.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Me too.
No opposed. It's unanimous.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
I might want to comment though. I'm starting. I mean, I don't have a problem with you summarizing tonight because we have a long meeting. But you have said, well, I don't have to read all of this because it already was put in front of the finance committee. Finance committee is an advisory committee of the board. Their job is just to support us. So we now have our finance director answering to the finance committee and not the board. And now you're making a comment that, well, I don't really need to go into this because the finance committee already approved it. It's the board that makes the decision, and the finance committee has no fiduciary responsibility to this association, only the board. So it's important that we actually pay attention to our these financial documents. And so I don't want it minimized just because there's a finance committee and this is because I can't even view that. If only way apparently I was able to, Timey saw it. I don't even know how that happened because it's not viewable. I can't watch those meetings. So we either have to, number one, start showing them, but secondly, we need to respect the fact that it's the board that makes the financial decisions. They are just an advisory committee.
The finance committee meetings are planned to be held remotely. There is a link on the website so that any community member can join. We had several folks join last time to view the meeting. It was our intention to record the meeting I hit the button and I saw the recording sign. Unfortunately, I had to do that meeting from my house because I was snowed in and stuck there. And when I went to look for the recording, it wasn't there. The only thing that I can think of that happened to cause that is that, talk about too much information. I was at home. I have a cabin in the backwoods. It's an A-frame basically. The snow load came off in the middle of the meeting or towards the end, smashed into the satellite dish, and I lost internet. And when I got back to the meeting, it wasn't recording anymore, and the recording wasn't on Zoom. So it was either a technical error or some error on my part. And that's why I said that recording is missing due to it occurring during a snowstorm. So the intent is for us to televise or record those meetings and make the recordings available. It was an unfortunate occurrence that we lost that recording.
And Sonia, I watched it live.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
The board is given the memos in advance and all of the backup in advance. So for me to sit and read the memo in the meeting seems counterproductive. I have felt that for a year and a half. I had to do the same thing. I read it aloud to the finance committee and answered their questions, and we reviewed the materials. Doing that twice seems excessive. So if I'm missing something here, like, you guys get the memo, and I think it is appropriate that we vet the materials, that I answer your questions, but I question whether I should read it word for word in every meeting, and I would like to take feedback on that. Yes.
Well, I didn't know for sure, or if I would be elected or appointed, I guess, to the board, but I did prepare and went through the agenda. I didn't pick up on the additions because I apparently did that right before we came upstairs, the addendums. But I felt very comfortable in reading through these three proposals, and very well laid out and explained, very logical to me. I mean, the truck's dead, unsafe to drive. We need a new truck. They went through their procedure. To me, it's a lot more efficient for me to be able to read that, and if I have some questions, present them to whether it's the finance guy or Joanne, whoever's presenting that, in the essence of time. I don't think there was any. I didn't hear any questions about, other than that we weren't maybe going to specifically buy that particular vehicle, but other than that, it was all pretty clear.
Yeah, I want to be real clear. I don't have a problem with her abbreviating it either, because I get that. It was just what was said. I just want to be real clear that we're prioritizing that we're not just minimizing how these things are coming to the board. That's all. And I realize, Joanne, you probably said that in an offhand, joking fashion, but after, there's like a couple of things happening here that I'm like, well, there's a shifting, and the board hasn't discussed that these things aren't they're changing, so I wasn't aware that, bizarrely, I don't even know why our finance director is not coming to the board and presenting our finances to us anymore, because he's now once a month going to the finance committee. The board didn't determine that, and that's an agreement that we have with him, and I'm a little shocked that happened. And so then when you made that, and again, I'm sure it was an offhand remark, I reacted to it because of that, because I want to be sure that everybody understands it's the board that is actually responsible for these decisions. That's all.
But it's not an offhand remark, Sonia. What I said was, these capital requests were vetted by the finance committee and recommended by them to be brought to the board and approved. Because of that, in the interest of time, I would like to offer a summary instead of reading it word for word. And if I've heard now from Rick that he found that to be an acceptable way. You did not find that to be acceptable. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm fine with
Okay.
But I have a quick question, not to drag this out anymore, but and since I've been on the board, there hasn't been large reviews of finance committees, or the finance committee reviewing things and stuff. And the question would be procedurally, would it be more appropriate if when these capital requests came forth and we get to that point in the agenda, when Joanne says this is the summary of the capital request, would it be more appropriate if the finance committee representative, which would be myself or Lori, because we're sitting board directors, say the finance committee reviewed these and is recommending that the board votes for these or something to that effect, Sonia? I mean,
So in the past, when there was a finance committee, and I realize there hasn't been one, and that's why it's a little confused. Okay, in the past, I'm sorry, I guess Keith told me you couldn't hear me. In the past, when there's been a finance committee, at the bottom of the capital request where you see it say approved or not approved by the board of director, there's also a line that says finance committee. So it'll come to the board that way. So when we get the packet, it'll say finance committee and it'll either have an X at approved or not approved. So we just need to pull up the old, you'll see it in the old capital request where it has that at the very bottom, and it'll already have the
okay. All right, that's great. That's perfect, Sonia. I appreciate that. And I'm sure Joanne is more than capable of implementing that.
Yes, I
and
can use the word.
And I have no problem. Again, let me emphasize with you shortening. You don't have to read every minute thing.
But Sam, the only thing that I brought up quite a few times over the past couple of years was clarification for people that may tune in to this board meeting. And so long as that we can break it down to where the members of the association can, as long as that, whatever, if we summarize, as long as it's clear enough so we can cover it so that somebody doesn't have to tune into this and then chase down all the finance committee things that followed up. I'd say, because I'm thinking member participation and say, making sure we don't add layers. Quite often I've asked for some explanations from various people about certain things on that, just from the viewpoint of members that aren't privy to all the discussions we've had. And say, so if we can always clarify that as best we can for our regular members that are not going to be following all of the committee meetings. And I don't think that's right if we end up having a situation where, well, it's referred to this, go watch that one. Well, I guarantee you that'll be a lot of folks that start being a little upset about that. I know there's people that do look at these and get some background and talk with other people. They're not really highly rated programs for sure. But still, that's the only thing I always like to see is what we put out on the floor in the air between us all is something that can be deciphered also by our members. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. You want to do 10B?
Awesome. Okay, 10B, turf care building remodel. The purpose of this request is for funding for HVAC replacement and the repair / refurbishment. I'm not exactly sure how to what to call it, of specific elements of the turf care building.
Wait, hold on. Let me go back up. Did we take a vote on 10A? We did not, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did.
It was unanimous.
It was, okay. That's probably why I forgot. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Joanne.
No worries. So the capital budget for 2024 includes $117,177 for the repair or refurbishment of various elements of the turf care building. There are numerous items in that total, and I've listed them out in the table there. Listing them out in the table doesn't mean those are all the little things we're doing. It means that that's what's in the budget. We don't know if previous repairs or improvements were made to the turf care building. We don't have a record of that. But turf care staff has identified 4 of the interior rooms in the turf care building that are used daily that need improvements. Those 4 rooms are the break room, the drying room, the bathroom, and the office. The improvements that were proposed include a new configuration, new finishes, and enlarging or improving the bathroom to meet ADA requirements. We're not putting in a luxury bathroom, by the way. This is mostly about the wash station. Since turf care staff do handle chemicals that they apply to the golf course, it's important to have that wash station that they can quickly get into and out of. So when we say meet ADA requirements, we're talking about widening the door and improving the turn radius to get into that wash station and just making it more accessible generally. Other items that have been proposed include exterior painting, replacing the 2 overhead garage doors, and adding an exhaust fan in the chemical storage room. In addition to that, HVAC improvements will be completed to include replacement of a failed furnace and 4 baseboard heaters. We propose to tackle this project in 3 phases. Phase 1 is just to do the HVAC. It's a standalone. So we would replace the furnace and the 4 baseboard heaters, and we can do that in 2024 because those permits are easy to get. Phase 2 would be design and permitting, and that would take place also in 2024. And we don't have a lot of confidence that we could go any further than design and permitting because of the continued lateness of the Whatcom County permit review process. So we're saying we do the HVAC and design and permitting this year, and then plan to implement the design to do the construction in the first quarter of 2025. So those are the 3 phases that we're breaking this into. Phase 1 is just the HVAC, and we asked for and got back quotes from 3 contractors, which is amazing because HVAC contractors have been super busy. And when we've reached out to them, like last year, we had a project at the Welcome Center. It was hard to get anybody to respond. Unfortunately, Linden Sheet Metal's quote is not comparable, and we followed up with them 3 times by both phone and email to say, if you include these other permits and this other stuff, what would your quote be? And they didn't get back to us. So the assumption is they don't want the work. That leaves us with Mars and Barron. And so we recommend going forward with Barron since it's less expensive than the Mars quote. And we're confident that it includes all the necessary electrical work and the permitting and the thermostat and wall control. So because those were the things that were left out of Linden Sheet Metal. Yes.
So I just want to be sure I understand. Okay, so you put the table in here and you're, but you're actually only asking, you're really just asking for the HVAC and then the funds for the design. Is that right?
Yeah, there's more to come.
Okay. And I just, one thing I just wanted to comment on it too is we did the
sand roof.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
And it's confusing, but there's all these little items, and that's where we got that number. Yeah.
So when we do the, can you just ensure that like when they do the design and permitting and everything that then we readjust, because I realized this was all really inaccurate. We were working off an old reserve study and everything. Can you just make sure that they readjust everything to categorize it correctly and then let us know what's upcoming that maybe we didn't foresee even, and fix the reserve study appropriately?
The simple answer is yes.
Okay.
And we're ensured that we follow that process because when the capital project, the actual HVAC is done, that'll have to be capitalized, and that automatically will go into the reserve study as the HVAC replacement. Similarly, when we capitalize, assuming we get approval for this and we do it, when that project is completed, the asset will be capitalized and it'll be put into that renewal schedule. The part that's missing from our process is recognizing that some of these items might not be addressed now, but may need to be addressed, which is what you just brought up. And so I requested Mike and Greg, Greg is our turf care manager and Mike is the maintenance and facilities manager. They are doing that for me. They're either saying this never needs to be addressed or this will need to be addressed in, 20 whatever, and giving me a cost so that we update the whole thing. So anyway, that's for phase 1. We're recommending Barron, and the proposals are in there. For phase two, we've included P&W's proposal, which provides details on the individual components of the work, including design and permit applications by Sarah Brown and oversight and on-site facilitation provided by P&W. And the cost for that design and permitting is estimated to be $9,755. So here's the kicker, and here's why we're talking about 117,000 when we only need 18,764. We're talking about it because it leaves $98,000 from the budget to be used for phase three, but that won't be done until 2025. And we'll submit a separate funding request after the design and permitting process for the exact amount that's in the estimate. But we have another request coming up, and that third request, which we haven't gotten to yet, isn't in the capital budget till 2025. So what we're proposing is a swap. And that's why we went into this exhaustive detail about the capital budget, even though we don't need all of those funds. So there are two requests. We made them separate. First is for $9,009.46 to replace the furnace and baseboard heaters and authorize me to execute the standard construction contract with Barron Heating as per their quote. The second request is for $9,755 to proceed with design and permitting for the Turf Care shop remodel per P&W summary dated the 9th. Questions?
So I just want to make one more comment. Sorry. So I don't disagree, by the way, with these numbers because we don't have the full information to come off of. That's why we kind of left it in the budget like we did. But I want to remind you that there was kind of a swap that went on last year too with where they put forward the golf pump, and he said, well, we'll put the golf pump and we'll take it from this build. We knew that wasn't realistic, and that's why we went ahead and left this in the budget. But I just want to kind of give you a heads up on, keeping a close eye on doing these swaps, because it can, you know what I'm saying? Like, you may say it, and then next year, come budget season or next year, somebody's going to forget about it. And then we're not budgeted correctly, or we've overspent. So I just wanted to, it's happened in the past and we overlooked it, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Linda?
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to what Sonia said is that when you have this summary, once again, you have a roof for 3120 in there that doesn't belong in there. There was $19,000 spent on that roof, and I would ask that come out of there. I'm going to start by saying I have no issues with either of the requests that are being asked, other than I don't believe HVAC, which isn't even in this bid, should be taken from it. It should be treated separately. We have a separate line item on the reserve study for a furnace. Don't have baseboard heaters, but I think that you should call that, as you point out, it's going to be a separate capital item. If you don't take that money out of this remodel, you will end up with over $100,000 rather than only $98,000. And I would just ask that we do that, rather than, if there was a line for HVAC in here, I wouldn't care, but there isn't.
You mean in that summary table?
Yes. So why call it a furnace? It's got a magic number in the reserve study.
What year?
Well, this is the 2024.
No. What year is it scheduled for replacement?
Let's see. I know it says 15. Let's see. It says 15 years with 8 years left and an amount of, in the future, 4106. But what's really weird, if I go to the spreadsheet, there's only like $1,500 for this in a future time. So I'm not sure what went on. So I really did some digging into this. And I think that if you're going to replace that furnace, peachy keen, but let's call the furnace. Don't put it in with all this other stuff.
Oh, see, that's what I alluded to. When we complete a capital project, the exact specifics of that capital project are capitalized, and they get a line in the reserve study as a separate entity.
So I think what she's saying though is that you're talking about something that's budgeted 8 years off, like in a projected budget. And what she's saying is we need to find where are we taking the money from this year, right? And that's what you're trying to say, is that we're taking it from this year, next year, from this line, and
Right.
that's how we're covering it, budgeting for it, but it'll be accounted for correctly, and that line will be adjusted on the next reserve study.
But then what you do
Yeah.
is take away this lump sum of money that they've
It's the
allocated
table that's
and taken
confusing.
away-
Yeah.
And taken away $10,000 from that doesn't belong in there because it hasn't been called out in there. And if we have a furnace, then that's where they should have put that, is completely separate from all of this, although it's part of the, how do I say it? It's part of the turf care.
Well,
But just let's call it separate. And when they bring it back for all this other stuff, it's just, I would hope that they rearrange the numbers so they have more money rather than less.
Well, if we're taking pot shots at this list, I mean, whoever got 2 overhead doors for $22,418, those doors are like 16, 18 feet wide. That's crazy.
Yeah, this particular thing was literally left in the reserve study from years ago because it needed the designer or the, like a professional to come in and make a determination about what needed to be replaced and redone in there. And that had not been done when we were doing this section of the of the reserve study. So that's why it just rolled over. That being said, I'm not disagreeing with you, Linda, that the request itself is giving all the information as the table. I think that's causing the confusion.
Right. So all I hope to do by including this table is to say that there is money for turf care in next year's budget. And when if these projects are approved, we will go forward with them. And then the reserve study will be adjusted to reflect the appropriate line items for repair and replacement and the appropriate lifespan.
Yeah, it's just, because at first I thought, well, this is just fine. And I started looking, the only one I object to is the whole thing of using that money on a roof that was replaced last year for $19,000 and then still say, oh, whoops, we got this $3,000 still. No, we spent it already.
Yeah, the good part is that we will have the design and permitting, God's willing, before we go into budget season, since we're starting now. I've got my fingers crossed. But that way we can actually true up in the budget, and which goes along, with the reserve study at the same time. So we'll have the better information by the time we're working on it next year.
Okay, I just ask them to look at it when they go back to this, because it's just,
yes,
I'd rather have them have more money for the turf care building.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion. You ready to make a motion? You have any?
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, I just had one quick question, Joanne. Just because we had furnace issues last year and the response time with Barron compared to a couple other things, did you know if they contacted Angar, who were very responsive to us last year? I just don't know if they would be able to give you a better quote. They definitely gave us better service and better price last year. And I know it's not the same thing. It's not a commercial application, but I just wondered if you reached out to them.
I don't know who they reached out to, but here's what I was told. The specific phrase was, we reached out to our list of HVAC companies in the area and got 3 of them to respond. And we were all excited that we got 3 of them to respond, but they reached out to a list in order to get the 3.
Yeah, and I had to reach out to a whole bunch of people last year when I lost power with my furnace during the coldest time of the winter. So they were just very responsive. That's all I know.
Any other questions? Oh, all right.
Okay. Motion 1, Move that the SVCA Board of Directors approve the allocation of $9,009.46 from SURF to fund the HVAC replacement and authorize the general manager to execute SVCA's standard construction contract with Barron Heating and Air Conditioning for this work.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Yep.
Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. Motion number 2, move that the SVCA Board of Directors approve the allocation of $9,755 from SURF for the design and permitting phase of the turf care building remodel.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries.
Okay, asphalt cart path repairs. We're asking for funding for asphalt repairs to the golf cart paths, which are on the golf course. The paths have many defects throughout the course, primarily areas where the asphalt has been raised by roots from trees. The project will repair these isolated locations as identified in PNW's summary, which is attached to the memo. The lion's share, most of the repairs can be made by just simply grinding the existing asphalt and overlaying it with new. This approach does not disturb the soil, importantly, which means that we can do the work outside of the watershed window for digging. In the areas where full depth asphalt removal is needed, so areas of subsidence, area disturbed will be kept under 500 square feet. By taking this approach, work can be conducted in the spring before the busy summer golf season. And that has been the reason that these asphalt repairs were pushed off, because nobody wanted to do them during the watershed window, because that's when all the golfers are out there, and why would we impact our busiest season? To prepare, golf staff went through and created a list of cart path sections that need repair. Total area identified is about 10,344 square feet, which, given the cost per foot, we don't have enough money in the first year to do everything. So we propose to begin repairs in 2024, which we acknowledge is 1 year ahead of the budgeted funding, taking the turf care building excess since it won't be completed until 2025. By swapping the funding, it makes best use of the capital funds that are available in 2024. If funding is approved, we propose to fix as much of the damage as is possible with $54,080, which is the amount, about a third of the total amount that was originally estimated for the cart path repairs. The remaining areas would then be addressed in following years. As I noted, additional funding is available in the 2026 and 2027 capital budgets. The scope of work for PNW includes preparing the notice of activity permit app, issuing the project for bid to contractors, and then sorting out the contract award, repairing the identified asphalt locations up to the amount of funding approved. So the request is for $54,080 to complete repairs to the asphalt cart path.
Any questions? Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, Joanne, here I come. Get ready. No. So I'm looking at these. There are 3 of them, and they start in 2025. And I'm saying if we're going to move up this year, I think we definitely, and you're saying we don't have enough, that possibly before we go into next year, we move everything up, but then ask the reserve specialist or somebody to give us better numbers. Didn't you just say that they had an estimate of what? Something like $73,000. So none of these years are going to cover it. So if you're going to start this year, let's move it up. Because I'm saying right now, we're not supposed to do anything for 2 more years, according to the reserve study.
Yeah, so the original estimate did not take into account this sort of modified approach of just grinding down and then relaying. So the original budget was much higher than 73,000. It was more than double. Hence the need to break it up over the years, right? Plus there was the watershed window thing. So yeah, I mean, if the board wanted to, we could ask for 73K, but I'm being conservative. I think we should wait and see and then do the rest next year.
Yeah, but just as
Not
long
wait
as,
till 2
if-
years.
let's move it, then let's move it up. If you're gonna move it up 1 year, let's keep moving it up. That's all. Cause I think, there's nothing, like I say, in theory, it's not supposed to be done for another 2 years, that first amount of money. And I'm looking at 2024 reserve study. That's all.
So I'm not opposed to doing this. And also by doing it this way, you don't have to move that up. Because that's an asphalting type of that's the overlay treatment. This is addressing the underlying issue, and you're able to stay on track with that budget and everything. And so you can leave them where they are. This was already not budgeted for this year. It's already getting moved up 1 year. You leave those there. One of the things I would like to see to start happening is that there is a trail fee that is collected, and that trail fee is supposed to go towards repairing these paths. So if we restructured and did something similar to what we're trying to propose with the marina, where we're taking a certain amount of these fees and we're putting them towards capital, we can start to do that. And then by the time you get to, because it's about $15,000 a year. So, you get to that next step, you've got now the golf community, like the way we came up with that number, right, is that the tenants of the marina would pay like a third and the community would pay 2/3. This would work exactly the same way. If you take those trail fees and you pay them towards those cart paths, then the golfers are contributing a third of the cost by the time we're actually pulling down off of it.
I don't know. I'd have to go look at the revenue in the financials.
Yeah, I have it broken out to the level of cart path. So I can share that if people are interested. But more importantly, it's not clear to me from a review of the bylaws that the board has the ability to direct a fee towards a specific capital reserve. The board has the ability to approve use fees. The board could then observe that a certain amount was taken in a category and vote to move funds cash between funds. But I do not believe the board has the ability to impose a fee with the restriction that a specific amount of money must be moved to a fund. So I think we just need to be really clear with our language around this. The board has absolutely got the authority to move funds between to move cash between the fund. I'm not saying you don't, you obviously do. That is a power the board has. The board also has the power of assessing use fees by specific reference in the bylaws. The board does not have a specifically called out power to assess capital assessment on a particular activity. So I think we need to be careful around language only. I think the intent is clear and fair as it has been laid out. I'm not criticizing that at all. I just want us to be careful about language.
Yeah, because golfers are told when they pay that fee that it's going towards the upkeep of the paths, right? Like when they pay a trails fee, that's what I've been told. I don't play golf. But
You should.
yeah, I don't think you want me out there.
Yeah, to Joanne's point, the use fees and stuff come in, they go into operations. I believe that's how it's called out. And I don't think we have the ability to say this fee goes into capital equipment. But we do have the authority to move funds around.
But we can do this.
Correct, Joanne?
The languages.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing none, you want to?
I'll do it. I'd like to make a motion to move that the SVCA Board of Directors approve the allocation of $54,080 from SURF to complete asphalt repairs to the cart paths.
Second. Yeah, I said second to something finally.
Okay. All those in favor? Anyone
Me-
opposed?
Sorry, my video's not working.
Anyone opposed?
All right, hearing none, that is the end. We'll call an adjournment at 10:17 PM.